Welcome back to Philadelphia. Beautiful night for a ball game as the Braves and Phillies close out the series. This is Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. The Atlanta Braves looking to complete a sweep and looking for their 10th consecutive win overall. Atlanta scoring runs in bunches lately in this winning streak. And let's check out the lineup that manager Freddie Gonzalez puts on the field tonight. Braves lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. Jason Hayward has moved up to the leadoff spot. He has done well in the leadoff spot. Justin Upton's hitting for power in the 2 spot. Freddie Freeman is driving in runs like crazy. One of the most dangerous hitters in baseball right now. Brian McCann on a tear in the cleanup spot, and Chris Johnson leads the National League in batting. Not a lot of soft landing places in this Atlanta Braves lineup. It will be a challenging evening for a guy who's actually beaten the Braves already twice this year in Cliff Lee.
Cliff Lee, 53 games over 500 in his career. He is a strike throwing machine. He's not going to dominate you with velocity, but look at the strikeout to walk ratio since 2008.
And it comes in low, ball 1 to Jason Hayward. Dan Schulman, Marl Hershiser. John Kruk will be back momentarily. Was part of the pregame ceremony here tonight as the 1993 National League champion Phillies were honored pregame. Kruk, of course, a huge part of that team. So he is making his way back from the field back up to the broadcast booth and will be with us shortly. It was one of the most colorful teams, I think, in recent memory, to say the least. And Mr. Kruk was right in the middle of that.
Mariana Duncan was out there, Mickey Mortandini, Kevin Stocker, Krucky, Darren Dalton.
Our thoughts go out to Darren Dalton for a full and speedy recovery. Battling brain cancer right now. Got a huge ovation as he went out on the field. Manager Jim Fregosi was on the field as well. This version of the Phillies, high hopes coming into the year, but it has not gone very well. They're 10 games under 500. And Cliff Lee misses just low, and that's a rarity as he walks about it. That's just the 23rd walk he's given up all season.
Yeah. He's missed some starts from a neck injury, just coming back. And prior to going down with the neck injury, his command was off for a start or two there. They think he is back and healthy and throwing the ball free and easy.
You can see the way that just that little shake of the head. Didn't like that last call from the home plate umpire Kerwin Danley. So leadoff man aboard for Justin Upton, who has been hitting well since the lineup was reconfigured by Freddie Gonzalez. They moved Hayward up to the leadoff spot. He's done well. Upton's hit 3 homers in 8 games in the 2 spot, getting a chance to see some fastballs. As he sends it down the right side out of play, and the Phillies' first baseman from '93 is back with us in the booth. What was that? You had a little jig, a little dance down there as you came out on the field. What was that all that about, huh?
I got down there late because of what we had to do up here, and I didn't realize we had to run where in front of the cameras. Right. So when they said first base, I just directly ran to first base, and I had to do the veer.
Gotcha.
And then I saw all our pitchers standing there on the line. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get away from them. So that was a quick little bolt up the line there to get in safely.
My first thought is you're probably glad that in '93 you were first baseman, not the left fielder. That would have been a heck of a job for you.
I wouldn't have been here yet, Dan. And I might not have been here till about the 7th.
Well, I know it's been a fun weekend for you, getting a chance to see a lot of your old buddies.
It's been unbelievable. Yeah, it's great seeing Darren Dalton after everything he's gone through. But Freddie Freeman just lost one.
Smoking the first pitch down the line, just foul. As we mentioned off the top, Freeman's been on a tear. He is an incredibly dangerous first ball hitter as well, and he just missed a 2-run homer.
And this is the thing, Freddie Freeman, the first pitch, he's looking to do damage, and that's the perfect way to do it. You just see it right there. He got just out in front of that just a little bit. If it's timed a little differently, this is a 2-0 game.
As you said off the top of the show, you think he's at least got to be mentioned. Still 2 months to go, but he's got to be mentioned in the NL MVP race.
Yeah, he spent some time on the disabled list. He missed some games, but when he came back, he's 73 RBIs. And he basically solidified the middle of this lineup for the Atlanta Braves that allows Freddie Gonzalez to mix and match guys.
Base hit up the middle. Hayward will stop at second. So 2 men on, 1 out, and here comes another hot hitter in Brian McCann, hitting .352 over his last 28 games. And how about this against the Phillies? He's 11 for 17 against the Phillies this year.
We were sitting here watching the games all weekend, and Friday when he came up, Mike Schmidt, sitting with Mike Schmidt, and he said, well, here comes a 2-run homer. And lo and behold, he hit a 2-run homer. And he questioned why would the Phillies ever pitch to him with the numbers he has. And this is one of those situations where they don't have a choice.
Lee jumps out in front 0-2. And that last pitch, I mean, we see Oral when Lee's on, he's right on the edges, not over the middle of the plate very much at all.
No, he is a strike thrower with command. So control gets you in the plate. Command gets you on the edges.
Wow, a cross up there it looked like between pitcher and catcher. And the big breaking ball to the backstop is the runner's advance.
Well, we've got the cross up. And Chooch misses it. Take a look. I think this is a strike.
Yep.
It's definitely a strike. It fools everybody except for Cliff Lee's grip. He had a curveball grip and he threw a nasty one.
So Ruiz was thinking fastball, couldn't catch the curveball, they couldn't get the strike call and the runner's advance. So a whole lot of bad in that sequence for the Phillies.
And you see the meeting on the mound right there with the middle infielders. They're confused too because now they don't know what the sign is to help each other out and help their corner infielders out with pitch selection and how to position themselves.
Now, how does that happen, Oral? Veteran catcher, veteran pitcher, they know each other well. How does that happen?
Sometimes you change them up from one start to the other, but they should have had the conversation of which set of signs they're on. You can go anything from, a basic just second sign to ahead, behind, even. So if you're ahead in the count, it's first sign, behind in the count, second sign, even in the count, third sign. And everybody's got their own set of signs to try and keep it a mystery.
Fastball charge to Ruiz. Now swing and a miss by McCann for out number 2. So Lee gets a big out, but he still has to face the leading hitter in the National League and third baseman Chris Johnson. .344 on the season, and until yesterday had 8 consecutive games with 2 or more hits. That streak ended with an 0 for 3 yesterday. Key for him, he says, and some of it sounds like cliches, Crucky, but not trying to do too much, not trying to hit home runs, uses the whole field, things like that.
Yeah, before the game, he was asking me about a lot of different hitters that I played with, Tony Gwynn, and their theories of hitting. And, you hope he did. We didn't give him, or I didn't give him too much information about what Tony has worked with me and told me about hitting, but he seems to have a great idea this year of what's going on, how they're pitching him, and how he wants to approach these guys. And it's really been fun to watch, Earl, how a guy's matured from a guy who was basically, let's try to pull everything and hit out of the ballpark, to a guy now who uses the entire field and has become a danger.
He not only uses the opposite field, he drives the ball to the opposite field. You see a lot of guys who go from pull hitter to trying to use the opposite field that hit a lot of slices and just weak fly balls. But he's got backspin when he hits the ball to right field.
Yeah, Friday night he hit a double to right field and a homer to center field. So that means he's staying tight and he's not pulling off anything. It's really good to see a young kid mature.
Base hit into right field. 1 run home. Freeman heading home. Throw to the plate, not in time. And Johnson delivers with a 2-run single.
That's exactly what we've been talking about is the fact that Cliff Lee tries to go down, and it was a tough pitch with 2 strikes. But, when you have 2 strikes, Chris Johnson has become that guy now that, I'm going to give in. I'm going to take what he gives me. I'm just going to try to put in play and hope I get something through the infield. And that's exactly what he did to drive in those 2 runs. And Freeman got a great jump at second base on that ball.
So the Braves with a walk, a couple of hits, a pass ball, and a 2-0 lead here in the first inning as they look for their 10th consecutive win. Second baseman Dan Ugla is the batter, always a power threat. Low average, but 6th in the National League in home runs with 21.
This is one of those lineups now, the Atlanta Braves. If Uggla's on his game and B.J. Upton for some reason can get back on his game, there is no break in this lineup.
B.J. Upton just back off the DL yesterday. Justin Upton hot. Jason Hayward hitting well now.
Well, when you start out with Jason Hayward at the top of the order and then you go right into Justin Upton, as a pitcher leaving the bullpen in the first inning, you usually come out trying to throw strikes and not walk the leadoff guy because he's a flea and you want to keep him off the bases. You got to make quality pitches to guys who bring power to the plate right in the leadoff hole.
A flea. You're not a flea. You might have hit leadoff, but nobody ever called you a flea.
Well, no, I was more like the whole group of fleas together. But fleas run?
Yeah, they fly.
Fouled off by Uggla to stay alive. Lee having to work hard. He's usually a very efficient pitcher. Hardly walks anybody. But one walk and some deep counts here, and already 24 pitches in the first inning.
You know, when I was talking to Freddie Gonzalez today about his lineup, he said, you know, one of the luxuries I have of moving Hayward to 1 and Upton to 2 is even though they can hit for power, he said they can still run. Yep. So it's not like we're losing anything speed-wise.
Strike 3 call to end the inning. Johnson, though, a 2-run single off Lee and an early lead for the rookie Alex Wood as he makes his way to the mound here in Philadelphia. Presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Lexus. The Golden Opportunity Sales Event is here. Back in Philadelphia to the bottom of the first, the Braves with an early 2-0 lead as the Phillies come up. Look at Charlie Manuel's lineup. Presented by Taco Bell, the third lowest scoring team in the National League. Only the Nationals and the Marlins have scored fewer runs this year than the Phillies. Chase Utley, though, relatively healthy and having a good year. 272, 15 homers, a free agent at the end of the season, incidentally. Darren Ruff getting a chance to play in left field pretty regularly lately. He's reached base in 31 consecutive games. That goes back to last year, but it is the longest active streak in baseball. On the mound, rookie left-hander Alex Wood. Second-round pick out of the University of Georgia, as Oral mentioned. 19th Major League appearance, 4th Major League start. And the first thing you can't help but notice, Oral, is that delivery.
It's a little bit on the herky-jerky side. Abrupt movements with the upper body, the glove hand, and an abrupt movement with his kick leg as he opens to give you that X factor. Separation between the hips and the shoulders that help you generate power as a pitcher and a hitter. He separates them very abruptly in a little different time than most conventional pitchers.
Andrelton Simmons will make the play. Young retired, one down.
Well, the main thing is at the top of the delivery, he curls up pretty normal, and the knee goes back, the hip loads, the front side loads, and he looks conventional there. But now an abrupt move with the glove hand and an opening of the lower half quickly, and he holds that upper body closed and then kind of flings the ball really quickly at the end. But where that glove goes up instead of kind of coming at you like a sight line, probably to a left-handed hitter, it's got to look terrible, John.
I was going to say, there's one at the plate right now, and Chase Utley, and Crucky's been flinching ever since he got back up here.
Yeah, it's really unorthodox, but it looked like, to me, it would be more disconcerting to a righty because it looks like he's stepping right towards you, and it looks like he's going to throw it right at you every time he throws.
Well,
it can't be comfortable for lefties either, so this is going to be an interesting night for the Phillies.
He guards his face with his shoulder when he goes up like that. He actually looks like he's tilting and can't see the hitter or the glove. He's had no trouble striking people out, averaging a strikeout an inning. And a left-handed hitter doesn't have an extra base hit off him this year.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Utley. A lot of talk around Philadelphia about a rumored new contract for Chase Utley, possibly a 2-year plus an option year. Utley's a free agent at the end of the season, one of a number of Phillies eligible for free agency. And it gets complicated with a guy like Utley for a couple of reasons. He's been here for so long. He's a lifer as a Philly, but he's also had a ton of injuries over the last 3-4 years. You can see what he did from 05 through 09. He was, I think, without question, the best second baseman in baseball for a few years. But the injuries have slowed him down over the last few years. There's a lot of, I would think, there's a lot of emotion involved in this decision for the player, team, city, for everybody.
Yeah, that's the toughest part because, you hear the rumors they're trying to get a new TV deal, and, Chase Utley sells. People here love him. He has been great for this city and this team. But, at some point there comes a time when, when business has to take over, loyalty to a player because, a 3-year deal for Chase Utley. They got 3 years for Jimmy Rollins. They still got 3 or 4 more years for Ryan Howard. And, they're elderly players who are, recently their numbers aren't as good as they were when they were young players, of course. But, that's what they're building on. And it's a tough situation for him, Ruben Amaro, and the Phillies front office because there's going to be a lot of fan outlash if they let Chase Utley walk at the end of the season.
Management would love players to go year to year. That would be the perfect scenario. When they get hurt, then you only have them for the year. But the player thinks that he can get a bigger deal somewhere else, so then the home club that still wants him and the fan base loves, sometimes they have to stretch further than they want to. And I think that's what you're going to find probably with Chase Utley is that 2 to 3 year deal for the Phillies, they're going to feel like it's a risk. But for Chase, it's probably something he can get somewhere else.
Utley is 34 years of age, as is Rollins at the plate right now. Rollins signed for 1 more year at $11 million. Ryan Howard's 33. Cliff Lee's almost 35. Bouncing ball to third. And on to first in time to get Rollins. Utley takes second, 2 down. And it's not like this snuck up on anybody. Everybody talked about, was the window of opportunity still open for the Phillies? Was last year the aberration? Well, now it looks like maybe this is a trend.
I've got to spend a lot of time with Phillies ownership and front office personnel this weekend, and they honestly think that with Hamels, Lee, and Halladay come back healthy, the fact that they have Papelbon signed, that they think that there's a window of maybe next year and possibly 2015 where they think they can be competitive in the National League East and hopefully get back to a World Series. And so if that's their thinking, then yes, signing Chase Utley would be a smart thing.
These transition years for clubs that are getting older are always tough. They can be fortunate and the players can stay healthy and continue to produce like they were in their prime or slightly past their prime, or they can really falter and be completely hurt or start to lose their ability.
One of the younger players the Phillies are taking a look at right now, getting a chance to play, Darren Ruff, hitting in the cleanup spot tonight, a guy with a lot of power. And As we mentioned when we showed you the lineup, the longest active streak in a baseball in terms of reaching base safely. 31 straight games. That goes back to last season. There's been a lot of this year in the minors.
And that could tell you a lot about ability, but I really think it tells you a lot about maturity and poise and mindset, because just in a daily basis to start grinding that out as a young guy and not coming out of your swing or your approach tells you a lot about this guy's going to be able to make good adjustments throughout his career.
Phillies with Dominic Brown on the concussion disabled list right now. He's supposed to go out on a rehab assignment tomorrow. Could be back middle of the week if all goes well. The concussion DL is different than the normal DL. You can go on the DL for a concussion for just 7 days because you just have no idea. Is it a short-term thing, a long-term thing, something baseball brought in a few years ago? But Charlie Manuel sounded optimistic, guys, that Dominic Brown will be back in just a few days.
Yeah, and you know, when you start looking to the future for the Phillies is next year, you know, Charlie mentioned, you know, he'd love to see them get a right-handed bat, a right-handed power bat, possibly in right field to go with, you know, Utley, Howard, if Utley's back, Utley, Howard, Dominic Brown, all left-handed power guys. They need a righty in the middle to break that trio up, and you know, if they do, now you have a pretty deep lineup. If they don't, then they're going to be easy to pitch to or manage against by the opposing team.
Fouled off by Ruff. Of course, it's run by the Phillies. They won the World Series back in 08. Another trip to the World Series as well. 5 consecutive trips to the postseason. Didn't make it last year. And now 10 games under 500, struggling through the worst season they have had in quite a while. Their last losing season was 0-2. Diving stop, Johnson to first in time with a big stretch by Freddie Freeman at the other end. Good play on both ends by Johnson at third and Freeman at first. Good defense by the Braves. 2-0 Atlanta at the end of 1. Here outside Citizens Bank Park. 2-0 Braves lead the Phillies as we go to the top of the second on Ashburn Alley here on Sunday Night Baseball. Beautiful ballpark. If you haven't been to this ballpark, and if you like a good cheesesteak, put this one on your bucket list. Get here and do a trip. down at this ballpark. All kinds of good eats in this ballpark. And with this being alumni weekend, you're seeing a lot of Mike Schmidt jerseys.
Some teammates right there.
Yeah.
Former teammates out there in the outfield.
There's a few Kruk jerseys around this ballpark tonight.
Yeah, those are my kids. Yeah. Made them wear them.
B.J. Upton leads off the second for Atlanta. As mentioned, just back off the DL yesterday. And Freddie Gonzalez talking about forget 177. Even if he goes great, the overall numbers are not going to be good at the end of the year. There's a base hit into center field, so Gonzalez trying to get Upton to focus just more on current results, recent results, not the overall big picture. Leadoff man aboard for Andrelton Simmons, the very talented young shortstop. Terrific glove, and how about this hand-eye coordination? Get a load of the stuff that Simmons does here. That's pretty good.
He's going to get a commercial.
For something. Someone has to come up with something with him. Great young man, too. I got to talk to him a lot some today down in their clubhouse. He actually called me sir, which we'll have to talk to him about that.
Which nobody does.
Never.
Nobody does. I've never heard anybody call you sir.
And why would they?
Well, Freddie Gonzalez says, you know, the hands are great. The arm is terrific. The feet are good. But when you ask Freddie, what's the best thing about him defensively? He said he's got a great internal clock. He knows when he has to rush. He knows when he's got time. He knows who's running down the line. And, I mean, there are those who say that this guy may already be the best defensive shortstop in the game.
Well, it's tough to argue. Not only that, but he's a weapon as a cutoff man. And I mentioned to him, I saw a cutoff and relay throw that he made, a relay throw that he made to get Michael Kadire home. And I said, I don't know if you know who this is, but you reminded me of Roberto Alomar. The feet were in motion when the ball hit the glove, it was in the hand. The feet were already set in motion to make a great strong throw. And he said, what a compliment. Mr. Alomar was one of the best I've ever seen. I'm like, he calls me sir and him Mr. Alomar, so obviously polite young man.
Let's take a look at that play that Crucky was talking about. This is Tuesday against Colorado. Michael Kadire trying to score from first on a double. And check out this throw. Brian McCann didn't have to move the glove an inch. Hayward likes it. Kadire was stunned.
Well, Freddie Gonzalez was stunned when he was talking about it today.
Yeah, Freddie was saying in the dugout, don't throw it, don't throw it. Kind of eat it and hold the batter runner to first base. And it's like, don't. Oh, yes.
Didn't he originally was drafted and they wanted him to be a pitcher through 97, 98. And they said Freddie Freeman. Some of the players were telling me, hey, Freddie Freeman might throw harder than that.
Yep.
They were going to give him 2 years to make it at shortstop. If not, they're going to put him on the mound. If they ever go 27 innings or something, they've got two good arms they can bring in.
Hey, with those two arms, they might not go 27.
Yeah.
They were worried about would Simmons hit enough. He's at 249 right now, but he hit 296 in July. So he's coming on with the bat. Doesn't walk very much, but rarely strikes out as well. And somewhat quietly, guys, he's got 11 home runs this season.
Yeah, he's got some pop, and when you see him, he's a tall guy. He's tall and lanky, and he has some leverage. But Freddie Gonzalez told us today that that he's more focused now on just trying to hit the ball up the middle and the other way to stay inside the ball. So the home runs might go down, but the batting average will go up. And once that average goes up in another year or two, he's going to be in the leadoff spot. He's going to be a base stealing threat for him, and
he might be in the 3-hole. This power develops.
That's the thing about players now. You look at Mike Trout, lead off, hit third. Bryce Harper can lead off, hit third.
Manny
fourth.
Machado could end up there.
Manny Machado can hit.
That's
what
this body
play.
reminds me of, is Manny Machado. I'm looking at Manny, coming up and going, okay, he can play because of the glove. Well, that's the same reputation Andrelton has. But you know what? The bat might come just as fast.
Just missed down and in. And Cliff Lee has already walked 2 batters here tonight. The Braves have 2 men on with nobody out. Let's go down to Buster Olney.
Hey guys, first base coach Terry Pendleton, who oversees a lot of the infield work they do, calls Simmons the reason, as in he's the reason why we are where we are because of his great work on defense. He's given him defensive charge to let him take charge of some of that. And you're talking about his offensive numbers. How about July for him? 11 extra base hits, 6 walks, 2 strikeouts.
Keeping a close eye on things at first right now. Alex Wood is up there, and he's showing bunt nice and early. Gets it down. Gets it done as the sacrifice advances the runners. Atlanta's always been known as a team. This is going back to the Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz era, where the pitchers not only could pitch, they helped themselves win ball games in a number of ways.
Yeah, and those guys were phenomenal, and the work that they put into it, and you know, they had a lot of fun. I used to watch them around the batting cage. They were joking with each other and having fun with it, but it was dead serious with John Smoltz and Glavine, Maddox, Steve Avery. You know, those guys, they took it serious and they weren't fooling around.
So a 2-run lead already and a chance to do some more damage here in the second. Back to the top of the order for Jason Hayward, who walked and scored his first time up. Ground ball to first, runner coming home, and they got Upton caught. They'll chase him back to third, tag him before he gets there to record the second out. Phillies are trying to say that maybe Simmons was off the bag when he got tagged, but to no avail.
I think what you saw there, Dan, was Michael Young was watching the runner at first, and when he turned, he saw the umpire give the safe sign, and he thought, "What are you talking about? We tagged Upton." When you watch his play develop, yeah, this is a contact play, which sometimes I wonder why that play is ever put into effect, because you're just taking another runner out of scoring position. But you look at right there, Michael Young's not watching. Then all of a sudden he sees the umpire say safe, and he's saying, "Wait a second, we didn't get anyone out." So he's not watching right now. Then as soon as he turns around, he sees a save sign. That's when he jumps up and says, "Wait, whoa, hold on." Then he realized, okay, we already tagged Upton. I didn't see that one.
So fielder's choice for Hayward, a first and third, 2 down for Justin Upton, who was caught looking his first time up. How about Justin Upton's year? 12 home runs in April. 12. Then May, June, July combined hit only 4. And now he's already got 3 in the first few days of August.
It's the definition of streaky.
Mm-hmm. And this was one of the reasons why Fredi Gonzalez shook up the lineup, trying to give Upton just a new look, a new spot, maybe get him a few more fastballs, put him in the 2 spot, and so far it's paid off.
Well, and sometimes when you're a hitter and you're struggling, just any change in the lineup, as long as it's not down, your confidence goes up, and you see the game in a different way, it seems like. And Freddie told me, he said, I either had to move him to second, and he said there's no way I was going to move him to 7th, the way he was struggling. So he said, second it was. So he put him in second, and so far with Hayward leading off, it's paid off for him in a lot of different ways.
3-0 green light, fouled off by Upton. Yesterday, 19th home run of the season for Justin Upton. 3rd in a 3-game solo shot in the 3rd inning. The Braves went on to win 5-4 in 12, won 6-4 Friday night. Sitting on a 9-game winning streak right now, and with a massive 12-game lead in the National League East over the second-place Washington Nationals. There for a strike, full count. Hopefully he doesn't want to face that guy. Dangerous hitter on deck, hoping for a chance with some men on base. And it looks like he'll get out of it. 2 men left aboard for the Braves to the bottom of the second here in Philadelphia. Phillies coming up down 2-0. 293. Scream at a waffle cone, one of our favorites here at Citizens Bank Park. Bottom second, the Phillies coming up trailing the Atlanta Braves 2-0. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney. Sunday Night Baseball as Delman Young leads it off for the Phillies. The right fielder hitting .267. And a strike over the inside corner. Young didn't think so. The count's 1-1. After Young, Kevin Franzen, who's at first base tonight, and then John Mayberry Jr., who's in center field. Some injuries for the Phillies. We talked about Dominic Brown. Ryan Howard is on the DL. May not come back this season. Ben Revere's on the DL. Charlie Manuel doesn't have all the thumpers he wants in the lineup right now. Charlie loves hitting. Look at that breaking ball. Nasty stuff. And Young has gone one down. Well, as we mentioned, this is Alumni Weekend here in Philadelphia. 20 years ago, as they honor the 1993 National League champions, led by Lenny Dykstra, runner-up for the MVP. Curt Schilling was one of the stars on the mound. And our guy, Mr. Kruk, had one heck of a year. Hit .316. You walked 111 times. You had an on-base percentage of .430. Wow. You got that self-deprecating thing going every now and again. But, I mean, you had a huge year for the Phillies. What kind of memories did tonight bring back for you?
You know, great memories. I wish Lenny was here. I wish Dave Hollins was here. Big parts of our team that year. And, but, you know, Darren Dalton coming back.
Yep.
Seeing him, you know, got to spend the last 3 days with him. A lot of time with him talking and, you know, reminiscing and, you know, going over, you know, everything that's going on with him and with everything else. And, you know, like a true leader, and he was our leader, you would never know that there's something wrong with him. He's sick in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
You know, and that's the way he was. He didn't want anyone to feel sorry for him. He didn't want anyone to, you know, he wanted everything to be normal. And it's the same greeting every time he sees. Everyone he sees, hug you, kiss you on the cheek, and, you know, everything's going to be great, you know. So that's Darren.
Well, you got a huge ovation when you came out. Darren Dalton might have been the only guy to get a bigger ovation than you, and the fans here in Philadelphia. We talked about this before you came back up. Well aware that he is fighting brain cancer right now, and they just... Mitch Williams here, and there's Darren Dalton. They introduced you guys by position. He was the last one to come out.
Yeah.
They did the catcher last and embrace with your manager back then, Jim Fregosi, and a lot of love in this town for Darren Dalton.
Yeah, and a lot of prayers, a lot of people pulling for him.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was real emotional the first day I saw him because I didn't know what to expect. You know, he knew he went through the surgery where they removed the tumors, and, you know, so you don't know. I didn't know what to expect. And when I walked in the room, it was Dutch. It was Bubba. It was the same guy that was there for us every day, and you know, in 1993 for us.
Last place team in '92.
Oh, we
first place team in '93. What happened?
You know, we added some pieces. We could always score runs. We never had an issue scoring runs. We had a lot of guys, Lenny, myself, who got on base a lot. But you know, we had platoons at second, right, and left. And all 6 of those guys in the platoon situations bought into it. Jim Fregosi had a way of making them understand that this is the best thing for the team. So those guys were always rested. And, Oral, you know, when you have platoons, you know, your bench is better because those guys are getting normal at-bats, regular at-bats in the season, and we needed them all the way down the stretch. But, Lenny scoring 145 runs.
You guys were a pain to play because you were grinders with talent, and you guys knew how to take a walk.
Franzen drives it to deep center, but not deep enough. 2 down.
You talk about like power with on-base percentage and just the way you guys could work counts. Were a very tough lineup to go through.
Billy Beane was quoted as saying that you guys were kind of the team that maybe unwittingly back then spawned the Moneyball era, but you had 3 guys walk over 100 times, great on base percentage, 351 as a team. I mean, not a lot of guys were doing that.
Yeah, and I apologize for the Moneyball thing. If I'd have known that, I'd have swung a few more times. No, I'm kidding. But Dan and Earl, it was something we never sat in the clubhouse before a game and went over a pitcher when we talked pitching. And Lenny was a big part of that. Lenny could break down a pitcher with the best of them. And he'll tell you, I'm going to have a 7, 9, 10 pitch at bat. Watch, because you'll see every pitch this guy's got tonight in his first at bat. So that was a big help. But we never discussed, we're going to take pitches, we're going to walk. We swung the bats when we had to.
A great year for the Phillies, winning the National League pennant in '93. With some great players and a lot of characters on that team as well. And a lot of them got together for some good memories and are reminiscing as they honor that '93 team on the field prior to tonight's game. On ESPN, the Braves lead the Phillies 2-0 as we go to the top of the third. The big story in the baseball this week, of course, has been the looming threat of suspensions for Alex Rodriguez and others that could come down as early as tomorrow. We're joined now by TJ Quinn, the investigative reporter for Outside the Lines, who's been all over this story for many months now. TJ, thanks for joining us. What do you expect, if anything, is going to happen tomorrow? Freddie Freeman leading off the third for the Braves. First pitch swinging. Ground ball to third. Dug out nicely at first by Franzen. 1 down. Do you get the sense, TJ, that A-Rod, the suspension is going to be for the rest of this season and the entire 2014 season, as has been rumored? TJ, can you tell us why, for people who don't know, why is there so much talk that A-Rod's going to get such a lengthy suspension? Ryan Braun got 65 games. Others will get 50. Why is A-Rod potentially going to get so much more?
Third baseman Chris Johnson.
Last question, TJ. How many other players do you hear may be suspended tomorrow? All right, TJ, thanks very much. We appreciate it. TJ Quinn, investigative reporter for Outside the Lines. Buster Olney will give us more on this story later on in the telecast tonight. Johnson fouls one off. You hate to talk about it, guys, but it's the biggest story in baseball right now, and it sure sounds like tomorrow some news is coming down.
If it's 12 players, there's 1,200 in the union. You're talking about 1%, and we're still making headlines with 1% of the players that are cheating and that baseball wants to punish. And I'm not sure, John, that the punishment is strong enough because we still have a problem.
I without question, and you know, obviously 50 games isn't deterring everyone from doing it. And Chris Johnson, wonder why he's winning the batting race right now with another hit. But should I just take your job and do this again?
Yeah, keep going.
But no, really, that's enough. I couldn't remember all the stuff you have to remember. But yeah, you know, Oral, I go back to 19 years ago when, among other things, when we went on strike in 1994. To me, that was a part of it, where we refused drug testing. We didn't want drug testing. I heard invasion of privacy. So, you know, in a way, I feel like, you know, we should have talked about this 19 years ago and not now, because we should have done something about it. But it's obvious it's not deterring players, and they're going to continue to do it. They're going to continue to find masking agents and doctors that are going to find masking agents so they can continue. Some guys can continue to cheat, and it's obvious with teams that are in pennant racing. You hear the names of Johnny Peralta, Nelson Cruz, Bartolo Colon. We don't know what's going to happen with him, but you know, names like that. It's obviously that they didn't care enough.
It's the price
to say,
of doing business.
If they're guilty of what they're doing, that they didn't care enough about their teammates, and it's a selfish act, that they could get suspended. And I hear people say, well, they should do it now so they can still play a few games at the end of the year to get ready for the playoff. They don't owe them nothing. They're the ones who did it. They're the selfish ones who decided to try to cheat and get away with it. And now if they don't, and look, if they're guilty, I'm going to keep saying that, if they're found guilty tomorrow and they're suspended and they accept it, they're the ones who made the decision to risk it to hurt their team as far as advancing in the playoffs. And Major League Baseball or the union owes them nothing by trying to say, let's get them a few games so they can get ready for the postseason. That's ridiculous.
Well, and the great thing that I like is the fact that this call comes to the forefront. The players, there is a wind in their sails now to make the punishment stronger. There's a wind in the sails of, let's make this really clean. So every time we have this problem and guys come down with suspension, it brings focus to it, and every time the penalties are going to get harder and harder. And finally, hopefully, we'll get to a point where it does deter them.
And the players will accept even harsher penalties in the future?
I think they will.
Yeah.
I think the players I've talked to over the last few weeks about biogenesis, that one, they're sick of it, and two, they have no sympathy for the guys who are might be getting suspended.
But they're hurting their teams. They're hurting the fan base. They're hurting the sport. They're taking money and salary out of the salary system. So a guy signs for $100 million, dollars, and he has a 50-game suspension. That's nothing. That's just a higher tax bracket.
2 down, full count. Johnson will be on the move from first. And so much of the talk is about Alex Rodriguez, because so much of talk is always about Alex Rodriguez. In reality, in all likelihood, guys like Nelson Cruz and Johnny Peralta, those are more significant suspensions for this year, given the fact that those guys are on the field right now and that their teams are contending right now. They're in a bit of a better spot than the Yankees are.
And the fact that both of them are free agents at the end of the year, and see what happens. But yeah, tomorrow's going to be huge.
A strikeout to win the inning. More on this later on in the telecast. Here, 2-0 Atlanta as we go to the bottom of the third. Out of the third here on Sunday Night Baseball, with the Braves up 2-0, looking for a sweep and a 10-game winning streak. 22-year-old left-hander Alex Wood on the mound for Atlanta, facing Carlos Ruiz, Cliff Lee, and then back to the top of the order for Michael Young. Ruiz, another one of those pending free agents, 34 years of age, not having his best season. Began the year on suspension, was injured a little bit later on in the year, hitting just .255. Wood's second-round pick out of the University of Georgia a year ago. There's the changeup, which the Braves say is his second-best pitch after the fastball. He's really brought into play this year a new kind of curveball, or a spike curveball.
Yeah, second year that he started throwing that and spiking it, gives him a little cuticle problem at times. Whoa.
Ruiz smokes one to left off the top of the wall, and it's been called a home run on the field by third base umpire Gary Cederstrom. He immediately signaled home run. Ruiz is going to round the bases. And Freddie Gonzalez is going to come out for an explanation, and we may have a review. Now the umpires will convene to see if anybody got a better look. Let's take a look. Oh, hit the screen, hit the top of the wall, then hit the screen, and bounce back into play.
So that's a home run.
I believe so.
He's over the fence.
Yeah.
That should be easily reviewed then.
Yeah.
If the screen's a home run, then it hit the screen, it's a home run.
Yep.
Carlos Ruiz is putting his helmet back on like he's going back out there to run, though.
Ball must clear the screen.
Wow. According to the Phillies media guide, in the outfield area, left field, over the fence and in the plants, is a home run.
Yeah.
They're protecting the plants.
Yeah. So that screen is in play, and that makes it a double.
I thought it was, kind of funny that Carlos Ruiz would high-five everyone with his helmet off, and I guess someone went and saw the review and said, yeah, it didn't go over, and he put his helmet back on, anticipating going back out to second base.
So a leadoff double for Ruiz, and here's Cliff Lee.
How comfortable would it be butting off a guy like this, Oral?
Wouldn't be real comfortable at all.
Especially being a left-handed hitter.
Yep. And it would be a lot harder to bunt the ball to first base just to hang in there. It'd be easy to kind of angle it and bunt it towards third. But to really get your nose in there and angle that bat to first.
Watch out, Chris Johnson. He's normal now in the basic, but watch how he turns so you can see Carlos Ruiz. He keeps peeking at Carlos Ruiz at second, the pitcher, back to Carlos Ruiz, and then back to the hitter once the pitcher starts his delivery.
Bunted toward Johnson, only play to first, sacrifice for Lee.
Well, both pitchers tonight here handling the bat very well, getting their sacrifice bunts down properly, and Cliff Lee did a nice job there.
Watch out, Johnson. Look, he just he's focused on the pitcher. He sees Carlos Ruiz. He knows Carlos is not going to steal. And that's the correct play. He charges, wait for the bunt to get past the pitcher. Now, if he bunts it back to pitcher, you see how he's positioned. If it's bunt back to pitcher, he can go back to third base to cover third if there's a play at third. But the way he was angled, he can still go towards home and get the bunt once it gets past the pitcher. Would you think the pitcher would have been breaking toward third hard on that with a run on second?
Yeah, but that bunt was firm. You're right. As a lefty, too, falling off that way.
So here's Michael Young. Infield is back. The third baseman Johnson just a few steps behind the bag. Everybody else backed up, so the Braves will give up a run on a ground ball, especially if it's up the middle.
And don't be so sure if it's a one-hopper to Simmons, even though he's deep. And Carlos Ruiz with not blazing speed, he might come up throwing. He might come up looking at home first.
He's shallower than when he's on a cutoff and gets people.
3-0.
I never liked that as a fielder. When a pitcher throws a 2-0 pitch and it's ball 3 and he looks at the scoreboard to see what the count is. That's disconcerting to me. Like, uh-oh, he didn't know what to throw there. 93 is pretty good.
93. He's probably going to go cut her in here. Just ride the fastball in. Michael Young looking for a pop-up. Here it comes. Trying to beat him inside.
Slowly hit, and it'll get a run home.
Well, lately that seems to be the Phillies' offense is, double sacrifice and a ground out. It's that's why they're having trouble stringing together crooked numbers and putting up big innings. It seems like they're battling just to get the one.
So the Phillies cut the deficit in half here in the bottom of the third. Ruiz with a double eventually comes around to score on the ground out by Young. And 2 down, nobody on for Chase Utley. Weekly hit back towards the mound, and that'll end the inning. A run for the Phils, and it's 2-1 now for Atlanta at the end of 3. Phillies won here on Sunday Night Baseball. Between innings, our Buster Olney with Phillies pitching coach Rich Duke.
Rich, Charlie told us that you'd be taking a close watch at Cliff Lee tonight coming back from the neck issue. What are you seeing so far?
Well, he's trying to find that time, and, he's been out for 10, 12 days. We did have a bullpen session the other day, but it's nothing like the adrenaline that you have during the course of a game. So he's searching for it. He hits it at times and then misses it, but, he's grinding his way through this, and hopefully he'll be able to give us a few more innings.
How much is strike zone, do you think, so far affecting him?
The strike zone? No, strike zone doesn't affect him. I mean, he usually pops the strike zone. He's had a tough time getting his changeup over with any consistency, and they've run up some pitch counts when they've run some long at bats against him. And if we can get some quick outs like we did the first couple of hitters there, they'll be able to go deeper for us.
Rich, thanks. Thanks, Rich.
Well, a rough start to the fourth inning for Cliff Lee as B.J. Upton goes the other way for his 9th home run of the season.
There's a lot of positive things for the Braves right here. And the first thing is that B.J. Upton makes solid contact. The next thing is he's hitting it to the opposite field where the ball was pitched. This is crushed. And this is not what he's been doing all year. He's been spinning off and pulling everything. He stayed on and through that ball.
Yeah, this one could get reviewed, too. You see the fan reaching over there, and after they called it a home run, Delman Young was signaling it into the Phillies dugout that the guy reached over and took it, and grabbed the ball. So they're going to review this one. This is going to be It's like an NFL game.
I think you're right. I think this one's coming back too.
But you.
That's a tough ball.
That's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, that's tough to determine where that ball would have hit. Would have hit
the
just
top of the rail and gone in.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But you know, we're in our meeting this morning. You talked about Cliff Lee and how he's consistently around 88 to 91, and you know the thing on B.J. Upton's always been timing. This could be a thing that could get him out. He had a single because you know if he throws every pitch the same, you can time it eventually. If he throws a slow curveball, now your timing's messed up, and he hasn't thrown B.J. one yet, and he's got a single up the middle, and now whatever this is going to be called, but he's hit 2 balls pretty good.
Yeah, about 77% of Cliff Lee's pitches are between 87 and 91 miles an hour, and they're fastballs or cutters or two-seamers on both sides of the plate. So he's not going to get you a change in speed. And on certain nights, like tonight, he'd be better off getting his changeup going, maybe his curveball to change the speeds and the look of the hitter's eye. It's hard to argue and convince a guy who's 53 games over 500 in his career that's had pinpoint accuracy.
So our second home run review of the ball game as Cliff Lee waits. Did B.J. Upton hit it out, or will the umpires reverse the call on the field and rule that the fan reached over the fence and interfered with the ball?
John said it's like an NFL game, so we at least know it's a first down, which is a double. Let's see if it's a home run or a touchdown.
Hey, he's in the red zone. We just don't know how deep into the red zone he is yet.
I was waiting for you there, bud.
The umpires go down the stairs. They've got a monitor that they can look at. 3 of them go down. The call on the field was a home run.
Wow.
He's leaning over with his body if we're going to start analyzing a fan, and then he's full extension.
Yeah.
I think that ball's short.
But is it definitive enough that they can reverse the call?
Thing. Yes, exactly.
Meanwhile, Lee waits. As does Upton. Ruiz's was originally called a home run. He was sent back to second base after they overturned the call, and rightly so, though he eventually came around to score. Now Upton awaits his fate. This is a long one. And Lee's saying, what's going on? I mean, how long does it take? How many angles do you need?
Well, you never know what's going on down there. They deliver cheesesteaks and stuff to the clubhouse. Maybe they smelled one and had to go get one. I'm kidding. They're not doing that.
And look at Lee. He's getting irritated. I mean, he's really hot right now. And it's hard to blame him.
I mean, you wonder. And this is the negative thing about recall, about having it more often, and replays. You know, if it takes this, and this is a tough one. Neither of us know what it is, and we watch every replay they have.
So 3 of the umpires have gone down the stairs. They're looking at angles or replays that they're getting from New York. We're over 4 minutes now. Over 4 minutes into this delay.
I can speak by experience. That's 2 cheesesteaks.
4 minutes.
Dog gotta eat it. Oral. Oh, man.
Charlie's saying he reached over.
Well, after the ball hits the fan's hand, it definitely goes backwards. 2. They're giving him a
2
double.
bases.
Yeah, taking him back out.
Well, maybe that'll calm Cliff Lee down a little bit. At least he got a break. after having to wait almost 5 minutes. So 2 home runs overturned on the basis of replay here tonight.
Should never do my scorecard in pen.
Now, what? I thought you weren't allowed to argue a replay decision.
Delay of over 4.5 minutes as Upton makes his way to second base.
I tell you, of all the ones I've seen this year, and that was probably the toughest one I've seen to make the determination, because we still don't know. Maybe they should ask that guy out there that did it. Would it have went over?
He might be a little biased.
Nah, not here.
No. Here's Simmons. Good changeup, swing and a miss, 0-1. Simmons walk out as far as third his first time up. Had been hitting leadoff a lot for the Braves, batting 8th right now. Not because he was faltering really, but Freddie Gonzalez wanted to move Hayward up, get Justin Upton into the 2 spot. Simmons is a free swinger, not really an ideal leadoff hitter.
Back-to-back off speed. Cliff Lee getting off the fastball here, slowing the hitters down. Also looking to get the out to the left side of the infield, so the runner on second, Upton, doesn't move over. You'd rather have your ground ball to the left than the right here if you're the pitcher.
Now the fastball fouled back, 1-2.
Well, I think this is one of those situations with the pitcher up next that Simmons is not even thinking about moving the runner. He's trying to drive him in. You know, if he doesn't get the runner over and he makes an out, you're looking at Hayward batting more than likely with 2 outs and having to get a hit to score him. So Simmons is just trying to drive him in now.
Right center field. Mayberry there for out number 1. Upton not going anywhere.
Cliff Lee, an outstanding pitcher, caught a break this inning, but he didn't catch a break back in 2008. Cy Young Award winner. Precision, locked and loaded as a Cy Young. He was the surest thing. If you took the mound and then he was going to strike you out, he wasn't going to walk you. And he's still got the same mannerisms, and I think he's one of the top pitchers in the game still. He's playing for a tough ball club right now. It doesn't give him a lot of runs. He went through the neck injury. 22 wins back in 08.
Wow. Pounds the strike zone. Got 5 strikeouts already here tonight, 3 of them looking, and that has been a staple of his success this year. As he misses up and away to Wood, ball 1. Cliff Lee has 57 called strikeouts this year. That leads the major leagues.
Shows you right on the edge.
But that tells you, because he doesn't have a great changeup. He doesn't have a great curveball. And he throws mostly, like you said, fastball cutter. And he gets all those calls looking. I mean, that's how deceiving he is. And like you said, how pinpoint he is with his command. Pretty good numbers. I mean, if you like being first, I don't know. Some guys don't.
Now, one of the issues for the Phillies, we talked about how they've got an older nucleus and a lot of money tied up in those guys. And Lee's among them. $25 million next year, $25 million the year after that, and then a buyout in 2016 for $12.5 million. In other words, if they don't want to keep him for 25, they got to buy him out for $12.5. So they owe him at least $62.5 million over the next 3 years.
If you had to rank the core 6 of Utley, Rollins, Howard, Hamels, Lee, and Halladay, Lee is the worst. He's the least of their worries. On a chart of who do I worry about, who's going to be able to be healthy and produce.
Cole Hamels has pitched a lot better his last few starts. He's got off to just a dreadful start, but again, I have faith in what he can do as a pitcher, and then, salary notwithstanding, I think any team in baseball would love to have him in their rotation. I mean, you see the number. He's 4-13, but his ERA is still under 4.
Yep.
At the knees for strike 3 call.
That's 58 looking, Dan, now.
More Major League action coming your way this week here on ESPN. Tomorrow night, the Red Hot Dodgers are in St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. That's Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. The same matchup on a Wednesday night at 8 Eastern. And we'll be out in L.A. to see the Dodgers take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Some hot teams. The teams playing very well that you will see in the coming week here on ESPN and also available on Watch ESPN.
If things work out right, we'll get to see another unbelievable left-hander next Sunday. Maybe Clayton Kershaw.
Yep. The Dodgers winning again today.
Isn't that like 14 games in a row on the road that they've won?
Yeah, an incredible streak right there. They beat the Cubs 1-0. Stephen Fife got the win. Kenley Jansen to save his 17th. Some concern though. Hanley Ramirez left the game of the 7th inning.
Jammed his shoulder.
Yeah, yeah, tumbled into the stands catching a fly ball. He left the game. Yasiel Puig, who suffered a hand injury yesterday, didn't start the game today. So those two guys obviously have been incredibly important in the Dodgers' resurgence that has taken them right to the top of the National League West.
But there's a different energy on that whole roster. Those guys might have woke them up, but the whole roster is awake now. And Adrian Gonzalez has been a constant out there.
Hayward rips one to right field. And Upton will come in to score on a long, loud RBI single by Jason Hayward that has given Atlanta a 3-1 lead.
Well, this is what we talked about. Simmons was trying to drive him in. He wasn't thinking about moving him over. And if he didn't do the job, then you knew that Hayward was going to have to get a 2-out hit. But you know, Jason Hayward, you see how he stayed down on that ball. There's a lot of times in that crouch he raises up. He stayed down on that ball. It was a breaking ball, and he just hits a bullet off that right field wall and hit it so hard with his speed he couldn't get a double. I mean, Delman Young played that ball well off the wall, but Hayward hit that ball so hard, no chance of getting to second base. But he really did stay down through that ball with his legs.
And that's got to be hard as a left-handed hitter when that curveball starts up by your eyes, not to rise up with it.
Yeah, I stood straight up, and then there was times when I see a big break ball, I'd still try to get up on my toes. I don't know what I was thinking.
Just where the ball's starting, huh?
Yeah, trying to reach it. I don't know. I figured it would have to come down eventually. But that didn't cross my mind in that short period of time it was coming toward me.
Now Justin Upton sends a fly ball to center. This ball is well hit, and it's over the head of Mayberry. Hitting third, heading home. Hayward, RBI double. Justin Upton, 4-1 Atlanta.
Freddie Gonzalez said it. My new top of the order. They're doing well, delivering, and this is a delivery. And the Braves caught a little break here. That ball was just crushed. 0-1 out over the plate. And Justin Upton hits, but watch where this ball hits after it hits the ground. It hits the bottom of the fence underneath that padding and bounces straight down. If it bounces over the fence, of course, it's second and third. They move Hayward back to second on the ground rule double. But he hit it just far enough that it didn't have enough height to get over that fence. Hits the bottom, comes back down, and the Braves got him another run.
Now swinging a miss by Freddie Freeman. A 2-run inning for the Braves. RBIs for Jason Hayward, Justin Upton. They lead 4-1. Trying to extend their winning streak to 10. It would be the second 10-game winning streak of the season for the Braves if they can win here tonight. Last team to do that, the 2001 St. Louis Cardinals. Jams him, foul ball, 0-2. And one of the things you forget about a guy like Freeman, and he's not alone on this team, how young some of these guys are. Freddie Freeman is 23 years old.
I mean, you look at their first three guys in the lineup, they're all under 20. Justin's under 25, right? He's 25 maybe?
I think he is 25.
He's just 25.
When they're 25 and younger, that's a pretty good 1, 2, 3 for a long, long time. And if they get a burner who can steal bases, that's a good 2, 3, 4 for a long time.
They just keep producing talent. They keep bringing people up from the farm system who can help. They keep plugging the holes when they've got injuries, and they've had a lot of injuries this year. It's not like it's been smooth sailing all season long for the Braves. Yet here they are, 21 games over 500 and in control in their division.
Now, this isn't one of those one-year things where, you know, let's load up for this year and try to win. And this team's going to be really good for a lot of years and probably just get better, because you look at their position players, they're not going to have to really go out and spend a lot on position players because they're already here. So if they need to spend money on a big free agent, they can get a top starter, top of the rotation type starter to go with these young kids and young guys, and they're going to be.
Their rotation right now after Tim Hudson's injury is 22 to 27 years old. Yep. And we talk about, that's going to be tough to go into the playoffs, but you're also going in with an everyday lineup that has that kind of age. So they are going to be really good for a long time. And the thing you think about with this lineup, the blemish on their offensive categories was the strikeouts. Well, that's slowly getting better. So they have the power. They can hit for average. They're taking their walks. They're just worried about the strikeouts. Well, by the time we get to playoff time, these guys might mature on that approach.
In the air to left field. And the inning is over, but not before the Braves do some more damage. B.J. Upton leads off the inning with what eventually was ruled a double. After the replay review, Jason Hayward singles him home. Justin Upton doubles him home. Been a tough night for Cliff Lee. Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Bayer Advanced Aspirin, the official pain reliever of MLB. Try targeted relief with the power of Bayer Advanced Aspirin. Going to the bottom of the fourth, Atlanta leading Philadelphia 4-1 between innings. Buster Olney with Braves manager Fredi Gonzalez. All right, we'll get to that interview after the batters. Jimmy Rollins leads off the inning for the Phillies. Grounded out his first time up. 4 runs, 7 hits, no errors for the Braves. 1 run, just 1 hit, no errors for the Phillies. Boy, for his third best pitch, that's a pretty good looking pitch.
Yeah, good little sweeping breaking ball. I'm very impressed with this young man. I mean, the herky-jerky mechanics will make you think that he really might not have it together, but he repeats. He gets locked and loaded and gets down the hill. He's aggressive in the strike zone. Coming at you with a changeup right there. And to think, You know, before last June, he was pitching for the University of Georgia. I mean, 85th pick in the 2012 draft, second rounder, A-ball, AA, AAA. They watched him in a spring training game against the Yankees under the lights, brought him in with bases loaded, one out. He got a double play ball through strikes, and they said, whoa, got some poise, too.
Rollins grounds out, one down. Now let's listen in. Buster Olney, Freddie Gonzalez.
Freddie, what did the umpires tell you about the disputed home run?
They said it was close. You know, they thought it was close to came out. I haven't seen it yet, but some of our coaches went down there and saw it and said the same thing. And what I was talking to Gary was, it's got to be really obvious for you to overturn it. And I guess Sir Angle, he thought it was obvious.
Now, when you guys traded for Chris Johnson, what did you think you were going to get, and what have you gotten?
Well, we got a lot. We really have. And guys, you know, it gives us great at-bats day in, day out. Big two-out RBI there to get us on the board.
Freddie, thanks.
Buster Olney did an extensive interview with Chris Johnson yesterday. You can tune into that. You can check that out on Gamecast. Now, when they traded for Chris Johnson, they really were trading for Justin Upton. That was the guy. That was the crux of the whole deal with Arizona.
He kind of uses that throw-in term as kind of a little motivation every once in a while. But he's a really low-key kid and just a great kid to be around and talk baseball. But the throw-in can get under your skin a little bit.
Hey, and I tell you what, they got a lot of baseball guys here. They sit and talk baseball. It's refreshing to see.
Aaron Ruff lines one into left center for a base hit. Martin Prado went the other way to Arizona along with Randall Delgado and a prospect. So with Prado going to Arizona, the Diamondbacks didn't have a spot really for Johnson, so they sent him to Atlanta. Johnson hit .281 last year with Houston and Arizona, and he's over .340 this year, leading the National League in batting. Remember the beginning of the year, it was going to be Johnson and Juan Francisco. Well, let's see who wins the third base job. Francisco's not here anymore. Johnson's leading the league in hitting.
And Chris Johnson's really made a lot of strides in facing left-handers. He only hit .255 last year off of lefties. Now hitting .388 coming into this game off of lefties.
Johnson's dad, by the way, the AAA manager in the Baltimore Orioles system, Ron Johnson. Here's Delman Young with a runner at first, one out, bottom of the fourth. Phillies down 4-1. Young struck out his first time up.
You know, John, you mentioned the thing with Atlanta about a whole bunch of baseball players. You know, there's three teams that we've seen this year come to mind very quickly that feel like they have those kind of clubhouses, those kind of benches. Boston Red Sox, St. Louis Cardinals, and Atlanta braves.
Yeah, it's refreshing to go in and guys don't have headsets on and they're on their iPods or whatever those things. iPads, you know, listening to music and, you know, blocking and zoning everyone out. And, you know, it's nice to see these guys were talking. You know, Evan Gaddis was talking to me probably for about 20 minutes about the art of hitting, the thought process. And, you know, he asked me what my thought process was. First pitch. You know, first pitch ball, first pitch strike. What's your thought process? And it was really interesting. Then Chris Johnson came over and some other guy. We were just talking baseball. It was so nice, but like they were in groups. You know, it was not like one guy sitting here, one guy there, one guy there, ignoring each other. They were in groups talking, and most of the conversation was about baseball.
Yeah. Young strikes out for the second out. His first baseman Kevin Franzen.
As the money changed in baseball, guys started to separate a little bit more. You know, you couldn't afford the big, nice headphones and the iPods, you know, earlier on and stuff. And guys would hang out in the clubhouse after a while, have a beverage, and sit around and talk ball.
I don't ever recall leaving our clubhouse before 1 a.m.
Really?
Why would I? Where was I going?
The safest place for you was right there in the clubhouse.
It was extremely safe. I did have a bout with a wiffle ball game one night that had me a little sore the next day.
Inning over. Chris Johnson already 2 hits. The National League's leading hitter having a good night. Base hit into right field. Diving stop. Johnson to first in time. Monday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Citizens Bank Park, Philadelphia. Braves and Phillies, Atlanta leading the Phils 4-1 as we go to the top of the fifth. Brian McCann leading it off. And bounces one foul up the right side against Cliff Lee. McCann has struck out swinging and struck out looking tonight. Comes in a very hot hitter. And he's got a base hit into right field. That'll bring up Chris Johnson, already 2 for 2, a couple of base hits to right field as he raises his league leading average. And we'll take a look at Johnson's hot zone right now, brought to you by T-Mobile.
He has really grown from 2012 to 2013. This is what his hot zone looked like in 2012 against lefties. Take a look when we move it and go how hot it gets everywhere against lefties now, and that's an average that moved from 255 to now 388 coming into this game off of lefties, and he's already got 2 hits off of Cliff Lee tonight. And I really think the approach of going to the opposite way and hitting what he used to be balls that jammed him or he pulled foul. Now he takes that ball on the inner half and takes it the opposite way and can get the barrel to it. He reminds me of another great hitter I played with, Julio Franco, the way he holds that bat over his head and kind of points the barrel towards the pitcher and waggles it so high.
Found it interesting talking today. He was, he's hitting 344 coming into the game. He's already got 2 hits, like you said, Dan. He was talking about I couldn't imagine George Brett hitting 400 going into September. He said, "Can you imagine?" He said that's something he can't even think about. Like, my God, you're close.
Bullpen busy now for the Phillies. Right-hander Luis Garcia. Johnson's hit everywhere from 2nd through 8th in the Atlanta lineup this year, hitting 5th tonight as he chases that curveball, and Lee retires him for the first time tonight.
That was a nasty pitch right there. That serious break with that curveball. Chris Johnson leading the league in hitting, but take a look here. I know he's just struck out, but watch this hot zone compared to where these hits were. Down and in, he took it to right field, dropped the head of the bat on it, and then in the 3rd inning, he's going to go oppo again. See that T-Mobile hot zone this year. There's the ball up and away that he stays on and drives the opposite field. That down and in curveball, Cliff Lee, that's 2008 Cy Young type curveball. 2 for 3 is not bad, though.
Ugla struck out twice. Ground ball to 3rd. Long throw to 2nd, one on to 1st. Not in time. Fielder's choice. Remember last night it was a play, different kind of ground ball, but it was a fielder's choice where the Phillies could not turn a double play. Ugla was safe at first on a close play in the 12th inning as Atlanta took the lead 5-4 and held on to win by that score.
Freddie Gonzalez said about Dan Ugla, no matter if he's struggling or if he's hitting well, he plays one speed, and he plays hard.
And some credit to Paul Janisch, who was the runner who went into second base hard and might have given Ugla a little bit of help beating that ball out. And that was the margin of victory.
But look at the passion. That's one play, and we see 3 players going nuts about it. Freddie Freeman, Justin Upton, and Dan Ugla, all on their toes, wanting that run on the edge of their seat. That's some passion, some caring about a team that's now 12 games in first, and they're caring about that one little play. That's awesome.
You know, you think about what this team's been through. They've had a couple of good years, but 2 years ago they had the collapse late. Lost out in a playoff spot. St. Louis caught him, went on to win the World Series. Last year the Braves lost in a one-game playoff in the wild card playoff. I mean, they've got some unfinished business. They've got some big goals. They want to win the division. They don't want to have to play in that one-game wild card playoff. They want to at least get into the division series. And they want to. I mean, they want to have a deep run. They certainly have the talent.
And I think this year they're better suited to go into the postseason because, by all intents and purposes, they're going to clinch early. So they're going to be able to not only to rest their rotation. Craig Kimball's going to get a chance to rest down the stretch, and Freddie's going to use him, spot him periodically. I'll throw him here. I'll pitch him here. Going into playoffs, so he's going to be 100%.
Strikeout number 8 for Lee to the bottom of the 5th. Braves 4, Phillies 1.
Flakes.
I do have those baseballs that say first Little League hit, first Little League home run.
I was 9 years old, and I finally got to take batting practice on the majors field. My mom was walking our dog behind the fence. I hit the ball, and I knew I got it good, but it was going straight from my mom. I'm jumping up and down for joy, because I finally hit a home run over the majors field.
My favorite Little League memory, I really don't have one. I wasn't very good back then.
It's fun baseball. Whether you win, lose, or tie, you shake hands after the game and you go grab a hot dog and a Coke, and it was a fun day.
So one of the great events on the calendar, coverage of the Little League World Series. The regionals begin on August the 6th. That's Tuesday, 5 Eastern on ESPN2. And then the Little League World Series from Williamsport, Pennsylvania begins on the 15th and culminates on the 25th of this month, 3 Eastern on ABC. Mr. Hershiser, as always, will be a big part of the coverage. Great event, huh?
I absolutely love it. I hate to miss the big league games and miss you guys, but I'll tell you what, for the Little Leaguers, I'm going to do it.
There's John Mayberry leading off the bottom of the 5th. 4-1 Atlanta.
You're a warrior, Oral. You are a warrior.
John, sometimes he does 2 games in one day.
Sometimes 3.
Sometimes 3. Wow.
Fortunately, there's 6 innings.
That's 60-day DL, isn't it? 3 games?
For a starter.
You like the international games? You like seeing how the different countries play baseball?
I like all of
it.
Yeah. I love the international games. Yep. I love watching all the U.S. teams. Yep. You see which kind of 2 or 3 big, strong kids come in, and the talent those kids have as far as being able to battle the kid that ends up being 6'3" against the kid who's 4'11".
Johnson and Boots went down at third, and Mayberry safely aboard. Here's Ruiz. Doubled and scored in the 3rd inning. A hit that was originally ruled a home run, then overturned on replay. We've had 2 of those tonight. Both called homers, both eventually changed to doubles. Both runners eventually came in to score. Ruiz for the Phillies and B.J. Upton for the Braves. John and McDonald out on deck in Cliff Lee's spot. It's left-hander Raul Valdez up in the Phillies pen. So for Lee, if that is it, 5 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, a couple of walks, and 8 strikeouts. And a strike, 3-1.
Well, this is dangerous right here. Or we already saw the pickoff move by Alex Wood. The quick step-off move, 3-1. Even though it's a 4-1 game, to me it's still early enough that you might want to send Mayberry here and see what happens. This is where a quick step-off move, if Mayberry's leaning, could pick him off. That'll make Charlie happy if that happens.
Growth of a young pitcher right here, deciding where his focus is going to be. If he's going to go for the pickoff, forget about the guy at the plate and just concentrate on that. If you're going to go home, try and get him out.
Ball 4. 2 on, nobody out. Wood talks it over with McCann, and here's John McDonald to come off the bench in a pinch hit for Cliff Lee. McDonald, who began the season with the Pirates, traded to the Indians June 10th, and acquired by the Phillies June 27th. And look at this drought for Philadelphia. Their last 20 pinch hit at bats, not a single base hit. McDonald, 38 years of age, a terrific defensive player over the course of his career. Gets the bunt down, and it will roll foul halfway up the line.
Cliff Lee had 95 pitches. You bring up a pinch hitter, you can let Cliff Lee go up there and bunt and not let him pitch if you're trying to protect him from the pitch count. You could save a player. But you also, you get a different defense when you have McDonald bunting, because they do have the possibility that he could pull it back. But Cliff, if Cliff's going to go 115 pitches, or they're not protecting his pitch count, or from the neck injury coming back, he could be up there bunting very easily.
I'm not sure that the way the Phillies bench is going that Charlie's worried about saving any of them. Just my opinion.
Bunted foul, 0-2. Charlie's got this big comfortable leather chair in his office, and I bet you right about now he might be thinking it'd be nice to go back there and relax a little bit.
It's comfortable.
Yeah, it is comfortable.
It won't be real comfortable if they don't get the bunt down or get some runs this inning.
You roll the dice when you bring anyone in off the bench right now for the Phillies. You don't know what's going to happen. They don't have one guy down there you can say, okay, we can depend on him. We can save him for late in the game. Eric Kratz has been hurt. He might be the guy that they're waiting on in the 9th inning or 8th inning if they need a big hit.
Showing bunt again. He takes outside.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to understand. Get the bunt down with a pinch hitter, and you're into a 1-2 count.
I firmly believe that it's desperation, and he feels more confident he can get a bunt down than he can getting a base hit off of Wood.
Now letting him swing. But a liner to center for out number 1.
That was. I'm confused. I don't know.
Top of the order, Michael Young, 0 for 2 to drive in the Phillies' only run of the night on a ground out his last time up. A lot of surprise around baseball, I think, guys, that Michael Young is still a Philly after the trade deadline came and went. At the end of his contract, veteran guy, the Phillies aren't contending. He can play multiple spots. He's been a contributor, played on playoff teams, and there were some contenders interested. Fouls it off. Let's go down to Buster Olney.
Yeah, guys, and one of those contenders was the New York Yankees, who heard through media reports that Young was willing to go to the Yankees, but they hadn't heard from the Phillies. So an hour before the trade deadline, they called the Phillies. They said they were ready to make an offer and assume all the $4.3 million owed to him. The Phillies said they'd get back to them. That didn't happen for another 40 minutes. Then the Yankees called them, and the Phillies told them 20 minutes before the deadline, you know what, we're just going to hang on to him. And that did surprise a lot of executives around baseball.
A lot of people thought the Phillies might really unload some guys, try to replenish the farm system a little bit, try to save some salary here and there, but it didn't happen. And it's not like they're playing well. They've lost 12 of their last 13. At the All-Star break, Philadelphia was 6.5 back. They're now 15.5 back. Won their first game after the All-Star break, and they're 1-12 since. They've done a good job within their own division. It's everybody else they've struggled with. 50-60 on the year. Inning beginning with John Mayberry reaching on an error. Carlos Ruiz walked, and John McDonald pinch hitting for Cliff Lee, flying out to center. Now a 2-2 count on to Michael Young. Outside, full count.
Well, Mayberry didn't run when he was 3-1 with Franson hitting, or Carlos Ruiz hitting. They ended up walking. Charlie probably not going to run him now. I'd be shocked if he did.
And Young swings through it for out number 2.
3-2 high fastball that Michael Young swings through, and this ball doesn't beat him. He just didn't look like he picked it up very well. That tells me Alex Wood is hiding the ball really well from these righties, John. He's coming from just flat out beats him with a high fastball. This is a ball that usually a big league hitter just kind of fouls off at least. He's late and just doesn't get to it.
Yeah, you can see where the barrel of his bat is, and it's lagging behind the ball. Like you said, just beat him.
It was 91, though.
You know, you see glove, and then all of a sudden it's a quick arm motion. It's not like a, you know, Rick Sutcliffe had the high glove, but you know he was very deliberate in his throwing, in his delivery, that you could, you know, still pick up the ball not as well. I mean, he had great stuff and won Cy Youngs and all that, so you can't say he was easy to hit, but you know that the jerky motion. Even the first 2 or 3 times you see him is is not normal. You know, maybe next year they see him a lot. They see him, you know, 3 or 4 times. Might get easier to pick up, but you know, right now, tough.
Do you have to pick up a new timing device on somebody who's so herky-jerky they don't have the same rhythm you want to have as a hitter?
Yeah, and the hard thing is, Oral, you might get it from the windup, but then when he goes from the stretch, it's completely different. And a lot of guys like Michael Young, who have some movement and some swing in their setup, you don't know when to go back, you don't know when to go forward, because you don't know when he's going or when the ball's going to be delivered to you.
A strike to Utley, 1-1. Braves might have an interesting decision with Paul Maholm supposed to come off the disabled list within the next 10 days or so from a wrist injury. That would give him 6 starters. And Wood's been impressive. Pitched very well against Colorado in his last start, his first major league victory. Pitched through a little adversity too. Had a torn cuticle, had some bleeding. That's on his index finger. That comes from the way he grips his curveball. Amazing they can have a guy like Tim Hudson to go down with a broken ankle, lost for the season, and still they might have a surplus of starting pitching.
And going down the stretch with the lead they have in the division, what's wrong with that? Yeah, the fresher you've seen it, the fresher guys are going into the postseason. It seems like the better they perform.
Right-hander Luis Ayala up in the Atlanta pen. Wood at 84 pitches right now. And they got him at second base. Mayberry's picked off to end the inning. Wood helping himself out of the mound by picking off Mayberry at second. One more look going to break. Mayberry may never have gotten to the bag at all. Go to the top of the 6th inning. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. As we discussed a little bit earlier tonight, the big story, unfortunately, in baseball is the biogenesis situation and the looming threat of suspensions that could come down as early as tomorrow. We talked to TJ Quinn a little bit earlier. Buster joining us from the field right now. Buster, you talked about on Baseball Tonight with Tim Kirchin earlier today what you think Bud Selig's best weapon, for lack of a better term, is here in this situation, and you think it's the growing sentiment of other players that they really want this kind of thing dealt with.
No question about it, as opposed to his power under the collective bargaining agreement, the best interest power, because what he can do if he basically tells Alex Rodriguez, look, we're going to suspend you under the drug testing rules. We're going to give you an opportunity to appeal. Then he paints within the lines of their current drug testing agreement, but it also allows him, when the season's over, to go to the players and say, you know what, guys? I'm not happy about what happened with Ryan Braun. You guys aren't happy. Let's talk about strengthening this drug testing system. And I talked to an influential player today, and he told me I'd be shocked if we don't strengthen this system in the offseason.
Andrelton Simmons leading off the 6th for Atlanta. Left-hander Raul Valdez now on the mound for Philadelphia. Buster, how has this situation impacted baseball in terms of trades that were made or that were attempted to be made before the deadline?
Boy, about half the trades you could actually tie lines to the biogenesis situation. You think about the fact that the Detroit Tigers at 1 o'clock on Tuesday called the Red Sox for the first time and said, hey, have you ever thought about trading Jose Iglesias? And 8 hours later, they work out that trade, 3 teams with Jake Peavy. The Texas Rangers having a lot of conversations with other teams about getting some sort of a hitter because they know they could be losing Nelson Cruz. And we saw the Oakland Athletics try to get Matt Garza and then try to get Jake Peavy, in part because, of course, they've wondered if Bartolo Colon is going to be suspended.
Well, it sounds like that we'll all find out more about this tomorrow, with different reports claiming as few as 8 or as many as 12 players could be suspended. Alex Rodriguez, of course, generating a lot of the headlines, although A-Rod says he's going to be on a plane to Chicago. He's going to be in the lineup tomorrow for the Yankees, and it sounds like he may have the right to appeal. But if you look at guys like Johnny Peralta, Nelson Cruz, who are on the Tigers and Rangers respectively, ultimately that could wind up being more significant. Might not grab the headlines as much, but you're talking about pretty good players, pretty key players for teams that are contending right now.
Yeah, and Texas at the trade deadline was looking for an outfield bat. And, of course, Detroit makes the trade for Iglesias, who can fill in for shortstop for Peralta. So, that's the tough thing. It's not the tough thing being a player. It's a tough thing being a general manager, because you have to determine before the fact, is he going to get suspended? And if Major League Baseball says, yeah, there's a chance, a really good chance, now they have to go make a move if they're a contending team.
Now, one report suggests that Colon may be in a different situation than some of the others, that this information about Colon may be the same stuff that got him suspended last year. So they're not going to double punish him. So maybe Colon gets off scot-free as compared to some of the other guys. But again, we won't know until the news comes out. It sounds like it's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's going to be, again, the people who keep saying, we should have, they should have suspended these guys before the trade deadline to give teams a chance to make a deal. No, you don't reward the team. You don't give the team a break because they might lose a player. Keep saying it, Oro, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. They were selfish for doing it.
Yep.
They only thought of themselves.
Yep.
They were not thinking about their organization, their fans, or their teammates when they made this decision, if they're guilty of it.
Wood strikes out, 2 down in the inning, and back to the top of the order for Jason Hayward. There's so much money at stake in the A-Rod situation because of what's left in his contract. But it sounds like this is between Major League Baseball and Alex Rodriguez and his people. The Yankees really don't have anything to do with this, right?
And we haven't heard much out of the union either, as far as sticking up. They don't want to stick up for guilty players. And in some ways, the more we talk about it, the more we bring it to the forefront, the stronger the players are going to be for stronger punishment, because they don't want to deal with it.
I haven't talked to a player in the last month that you talked to about this.
Nobody
this
is sympathetic for somebody they think is cheating.
At all.
They're not
at
sympathetic
all.
in one iota.
And again, they preface it like if they are guilty of this.
They're guilty.
And we'll find out tomorrow if they accept their suspensions. Then they're guilty. But
Jason Hayward heading down to first. And Carlos Ruiz is asking Kerwin Danley to check with the third base umpire, Gary Cederstrom. And a lot of the crowd feeling that ball hit the bat, not the forearm. You could see Kerwin Danley motioning to the right forearm. And Charlie Manuel is out again.
Looks like it hits off his left knuckle.
Yeah. Looked like it hit his left hand. And you can see he grimaced right away. Kerwin Danley pointed to his right forearm. Definitely hit him in the left hand.
Well, right forearm, left hand, they're close. But yeah, that was one of those. That wasn't like remember when Jeter got hit in the knob of the bat, and it took him like a split second, Jason Hayward, his face said, that ball hit his hand because it was immediate.
Here's Justin Upton, 1 for 3, had an RBI double his last time up. Hayward's hit first, second, third for the Braves. When B.J. Upton was on the DL, he fielded in center field. Right field's his normal spot. So his versatility has paid off for Atlanta this year.
And I asked him before the game, I said, how do you like batting leadoff? And he said, I'm trying to figure it out. Do I swing? Do I take? What's the situation? If there's certain situations. And, the answer is you lead off the first inning. You might hit third like he did. He came in an RBI situation his next at bat. Every at bat's different no matter where you hit in the lineups. Usually the first at bat can dictate the tone of a game.
It's very deceptive with a guy with that much ability and that size, and he came up here so young to say he's still developing, but he is. And the great thing about watching him now is I think it's his own wisdom and knowledge now. I think everybody was imparting it before, and he'd look lost. He'd look lost in the outfield about going after a ball or pulling up. He'd look lost at the plate about what's the pitcher trying to do, what am I trying to do with my swing, what's my timing. Now he looks like he's making adjustments from his own knowledge and wisdom of what he believes. And he's starting to look like a really confident player.
Got off to a very cold start this season. Underwent an appendectomy, an emergency appendectomy back in April. Has hit better since returning and has hit even better than that since going to the leadoff spot about 8 games ago. And now they got him caught. And that's it for the Braves here in the 6th. And Franzen shaken up. Another look going to break at how the inning ends. Welcome back to Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. We're here at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Alumni Weekend. They honor the 93 Phillies here tonight. And the kids of some of those 93 Phils out there doing some dancing with the Fanatic, including the young lady on the right is John Kruk's daughter, Kira, and the man in the middle is John Kruk's son, Kyle. I tell you this, They got more rhythm than the old man.
Oh, without question. Well, wait a second. Wait a second.
Yeah.
One of them does.
You just threw your son
No.
under the bus on national
You know what?
TV.
Last year he would have never. You wouldn't have got out there last year. He wouldn't have got out there last year.
Yeah.
This year he's different. He's into this stuff now.
Kieran Kyle up here in the booth with us.
Told him, man, if you want to play on TV, you better get used. Play in front of these people. You got to get used to getting me in front of them. But
now, they both play.
She plays softball, gymnastics. He plays baseball. You going to play basketball this year? Basketball, see?
Nice.
I get to know him.
Yeah. That's good. That's great. Really happy for you.
Everybody bring their family, all the guys coming back?
Yeah, Stockard brought his, I think, Jim Eisenreich, I think a couple of his kids came. Who else? I can't remember.
It all runs together.
Well, Schilling had his family here.
Right. Yeah. He became a part of the Phillies Wall of Fame Friday.
Yeah.
And you inducted him in. He gave the speech.
Yeah. I told him, I said, man, what can I possibly say nice about you? And he came up with something very clever that I couldn't use, or else.
Naturally,
it was a word that would have gotten me. Well, they would have cheered like crazy if I'd have used what Schilling told me to say.
But you might not be sitting here with us tonight.
I probably wouldn't be, no. Yeah.
And the kids need you to still earn money.
Yeah. Well, they got school and
college,
and what else you got? Sporting goods, equipment, and trying to get them into golf. I want, I want one of them one day to, or both of them when I get too old to carry my clubs and make sure I get around.
They have these things called carts.
No, they got to drive me. I won't be able to drive. That was number 9. I had 5 numbers when I was here. 4, I think. 11, 19, 28, 29.
Why?
I have no idea. Well, when I got traded here, they just gave me 11 because I was wearing number 8. Juan Samuel was number 8. And so the next year, I wanted to wear 19 because I was playing left field, and Greg Luzinski was a great Polish left fielder for the Phillies back in world champion in 1980, and back came in second runner up to MVP a couple times, and so I wanted to wear number 19 to honor him. And then for some reason I wanted to wear 28, and I don't know why. And then we traded for Mitch Williams, who he wore number 28, and so you know how these guys make trades. You got to tell them how great I am.
You are, but you look at those numbers.
Right.
Look what you did in the World Series.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You were on, man.
Double.
You did well.
That wasn't bad.
That wasn't bad.
You guys didn't lose that World Series because of offense.
We
scored like 60-some runs.
Well, the game 4, I think, was 15-14.
Yeah,
right? 15-14. And there you are, inducted a couple of years ago into the...
We need to go down there, Dan, and have our picture taken with the plaque.
The mullet. Got a mullet on a plaque.
Your kids have all kinds of interesting questions for you about those days?
Yeah, why? Why would you have hair like that? As the one he asked me a few times.
Yeah.
What were you thinking? Obviously not much.
We ask you that just kind of on a general basis almost weekly now. So,
and I can't have an answer for any of you.
No.
Because I don't know what I'm thinking.
Roller down to third.
But that year, Ricky Henderson, didn't Ricky go to Toronto that year?
Yeah, in August of 93.
Turner Ward, I think, had
Yep.
number 24.
Yep.
Someone said Ricky gave him like $25,000 or something. So when Mitch came over, I said, you want this number? We got to make a deal.
Yeah, Rolex watch.
Yeah, something nice. And he said, tasty cakes are big here. So he said, how about 2 cases of beer and some tasty cakes? I said, that's a deal. And so that's what I got.
Yeah. He knew the way to your heart was right through your stomach.
It was right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Darren Ruff with a fly ball to left field. And the Phillies go in order in the bottom of the 6th.
They didn't give us much time to talk about me.
Remembering the 93 Phils was one of its stars, John Kruk. Presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. And Kellogg's Frosted Flakes cereal. They're great. Top 7, Philadelphia. Braves 4, Phillies 1. Atlanta winning 6-4 Friday night. Winning 5-4 in 12 innings last night. Trying to run the longest winning streak in the majors to 10. Justin Upton leading off the 7th. There are some hot teams around baseball right now. The Tigers won again today. They beat the White Sox 3-2 in 12 innings. Torrey Hunter driving in the game-winning run. As hot as the Tigers are, is as cold as the White Sox are right now.
Yeah, it's not pretty over there, is it? Feel sad. I feel bad for Robin. You know, as good as they were last year for a stretch, is you know how poor they are this year.
That's the 8th win in a row for the Tigers, but the Indians won again. They've won 10 out of 11. As Cleveland beat Miami 2-0. That's the 15th shutout this year for the Indians. Scott Kazmir didn't go the distance, shared the shutout, but picked up his 7th win of the season. The Indians are playing great. They're just 3 back of the Tigers. Kansas City won again. They're hot. They've won 11 out of 12. Beat the Mets today 6-2. Irvin Santana getting the win. And Upton draws the leadoff walk. ESPN's documentary series 9 for 9. It continues Tuesday with the story of world-class ice skater Katarina Witt and how she persevered through the changes in her life following the fall of the Berlin Wall. 9 for 9, The Diplomat, Tuesday at 8 on ESPN and also live on Watch ESPN. Here's Freddie Freeman, 1 for 3. Other hot teams, we mentioned the Dodgers won again.
Shocker.
As they beat the Cubs 1-0. We will be at Dodger Stadium 1 week from tonight. Sunday Night Baseball is there as the Dodgers take on the Rays. We believe Clayton Kershaw, if everything goes according to form, will be on the mound that night for L.A. Freeman lifts a fly ball to right, deep but playable for Young, 1 down.
Dodgers are populating a few of our broadcasts this week.
Here they are. Monday and Wednesday at St. Louis, and then Sunday at home against Tampa Bay. The Rays are the best team in the baseball since early May. The Dodgers are the best team in the baseball since late June. Tampa Bay with a win today. They remain 1 game back of the Red Sox in the American League East. Will Myers has been hot for Tampa Bay. He has had some big hits for them.
Some walk-off fun.
Hit a 2-run homer today, his 8th, as they beat the Giants 4-3. Came over in the trade from Kansas City, started the year in the minors. But what a month and a half he's had.
30-12 since he showed up. It's a good habit to get a young guy in winning.
Kind of numbers that Mike Trout gave the Angels last year.
But you talk about Clayton Kershaw possibly next Sunday, hopefully for us next Sunday, because he's arguably the best in baseball. And pretty sure whoever the Rays fire out there, they're going to be as good as anyone else. They got some dominating pitching also.
Well, when David Price came back from the DL, throwing 96 again and hitting his spots.
And completing games.
Yep. You can give that whole bullpen a day off. Boy, does it rejuvenate those arms down there. They don't even have to get up. That's even better.
Oh, and they're going to give him the out at second base. The ruling by second base umpire Vic Carapazza that Utley lost the ball on the exchange, that he did have control of it, so they'll get 1 out.
Most of the time on this play, the second baseman, they're trying to deflect the ball into their bare hand. This one hits the webbing and just flips over. Utley's expecting that to get all the way to the base of his glove and then deflect up into his hand. Hits the webbing. And
I don't know about that.
Well, let me ask you, if this was an outfielder, would that be considered an out?
No.
But that's what I don't understand. That ball never touched his throwing hand.
No, it wasn't in the exchange.
It was in his glove, and he did try to exchange, but he missed his hand in the exchange. How can that be? And he's grabbing his right hamstring, it looks like, back of his back knee. But, how can this be considered a catch, and you're trying to get it out of your glove? His hand is in the palm of his glove, and the ball's in the top of his glove rolling around. But that happens a lot, and they always give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if it's because there's a runner.
I think it's
a safety thing to protect
fielder,
them. But
just like the end of vicinity play when they don't have to tag the bag
But,
completely.
if that's a pop-up to the outfielder, that's a dropped ball and an error. So I don't get.
Chris Johnson lifts one in the air to right center field. And that is all for the Braves. 7th inning stretch at Philly. Atlanta still in the lead. Pictures from around baseball. Here on a busy Sunday in the major leagues. We're here at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. in front of a crowd of 37,235. Not a lot going on for the Phillies offensively. Just a run on 2 hits. Another strong outing by Alex Wood, looking for his second major league win. And a couple of hits and a couple of RBIs for Chris Johnson to lead the way for the Braves. Make Sunday extra special by going out to the ballpark. Go to MLB.com/Sunday to find special ticket offers. MLB.TV, celebrating 11 years. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live on your favorite supported mobile and connected devices with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. Freddie Gonzalez goes to his bullpen. As we go to the bottom of the 7th, the right-hander Luis Ayala is on to face Delmon Young. The Atlanta bullpen has been outstanding in this series. 8 2/3 innings. Keep in mind it was a 12-inning game last night. 8 2/3 innings in the series for the Braves bullpen. No runs, 2 hits, 2 walks, and 12 strikeouts. And that's with Eric O'Flaherty, Johnny Venters, Christian Martinez on the DL. And they've still got one of the best bullpens in baseball.
And they continue to execute, get it done. Ayala on the mound gets it done with movement and change of speeds. See a little sink action on that 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
Just great numbers. You can see Kimbrel there sit in front and center. The newcomer is the left-hander Scott Downs. Came over from the Angels a few days ago. Jordan Walden's back off the DL.
Throwing better than ever.
I was talking to Scott Downs today, and I said, you get traded to the Braves, you pick up 34 games in the standings or 24 or something like that. And I said, you get there, and they throw you right in the game as soon as you get to the ballpark.
And he picked up the win.
Yeah.
In his first day. Well, they've all been good. Luis Avilanes had a terrific year. David Carpenter there, Jordan Walden. And it all culminates with one of the most unhittable guys in the majors in Craig Kimbrel. 97-98. Nasty breaking ball as well. He has saved each of the first 2 games in this series for the Braves.
But Downs just tell me.
What happened when he got to the mound?
He said he went to the mound. He said Gaddis came out and he said, "Hi, I'm Evan. What do you throw?"
He hadn't time to meet any of his teammates. He got there in the 2nd inning.
No.
Hi, I'm Evan.
Went straight to the bullpen.
Went straight to the bullpen, and
so today he knows their names.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then again, he was sitting around people with him and talking and talking pitching, and it's. What a great source. Scott's been around a while, and he's done some pretty good things. And he told me, he said, I wish we could have done better in Anaheim. He said he liked it out there, but he said this is a pretty special group. He found out quickly how together this group is, and he said he's having a great time here. But that would be weird, wouldn't it? Walk in, and I guess like Bud Norris, he was in Baltimore. He got traded. He just walks across the thing, and then the next day he's pitching against him.
Yep. Switched clubhouses one day, pitched against, and beat his old team the next day.
I'm sure Buck had some scientific reason why he would pitch him immediately after a trade, probably against his own teammates.
Some of the reasons are scientific, and some of the reasons are unknown.
I know. 1995, Mariano Rivera got his first start against us in Chicago, and he's waited for that day in particular because it was a day game, and tall righties, there was a glare off the hitter's backdrop where tall righties throw out of, and 7 innings later we realized that
you were in trouble.
He made a wise decision.
Here's Mayberry 0 for 2, popped up, reached on an error. 4-1 Atlanta, bottom of the 7th. Gonzalez lost his command.
That low arm angle, sometimes he drops the elbow a little too low and doesn't stay on top of the ball and starts running too much for him, doesn't stay on the plate. It's been an odd night so far for Atlanta in one way. We haven't seen the highlight reel on Andrelton Simmons at shortstop yet. This guy, he makes one highlight reel play a night. Great range, great arm, unbelievable hands. Ayala gets a lot of ground balls. Mayberry likes to pull. We might get to see it here.
2-2.
He was explaining to me before the game, Ayala, was that his nickname in Mexico, where he's from, is the equivalent of a slinger. The slinger. The slinger. Because of the way he delivers a baseball. He says he's had that nickname since he was a kid. He actually has it on his glove that he used for BP. And I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to do that to.
And a play for Simmons. Shovel to second, on to first. 6-4-3, inning ending. Double play. Well called, Bulldog.
On a slider. So you throw that sinker in on him and get a double play.
Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. And in part by Lexus. The Golden Opportunity Sales Event is here. Atlanta still leading 4-1, trying to sweep the series and extend their winning streak to 10. They got 2 in the first, 2 in the fourth. Kyle and Kira Kruk among the kids out dancing with the Fanatic a little bit earlier tonight. But will that be enough?
Seems to be the highlight of the Phillies' night so far.
Say, the Fanatic's doing everything he can to get him going. But even his magic might not work. You ever get inside that suit and do a day as the fanatic?
No. That thing was for two things. One, it was hot.
Yep.
And two, before they moved into this place and they put a big tub in for him and cases and cases of woolite to soak that thing, and it stunk. I mean, I smelled when I played bad, but it was nothing compared to that thing.
Did he mess with you when you were playing against the Phillies? Again,
when I played here, too.
Yeah.
You know, when they announce the lineup and he makes fun of whoever, you know. Even when I played here, he did it. You know, pushed his stomach out.
Right. Popular guy.
Oh, my gosh. You don't even know. You have no idea how popular. No, but like when they do events and stuff, you know, instead of bringing like a player, you know, in, they bring him and he brings in a bigger crowd.
Well, doesn't he have a mascot school now?
Yeah, they started a mascot school that
does a lot of stuff.
More Major League action to come your way this week with a distinctive Dodger flair. The Dodgers and Cardinals tomorrow night, presented by USAA. Again, a Wednesday night brought to you by T-Mobile. Looks like Adam Wainwright and Zach Greinke on the mound tomorrow night. And we think we will see Clayton Kershaw Sunday night with the Dodgers host the Tampa Bay Rays Sunday Night Baseball 1 week from tonight, presented by Taco Bell.
you know as well as anyone, or when the Dodgers came in, what he did with Tommy.
Oh, Kyle.
B.J. Upton, a couple of hits tonight, but he skies one into center field for out number 2. Well, the Dodgers, one of the biggest stories in baseball the last 5-6 weeks or so. 31-7 in their last 38 games. Yasiel Puig, of course, set the baseball world on fire when he came up. Hanley Ramirez came off the DL, swung the bat incredibly well. Both guys shaken up right now. Don't know how serious at this point. Puig, his hand, Ramirez, his shoulder. Clayton Kershaw, as good as there is on the mound in Major League Baseball. Simmons with a fly ball to right field, and that's a quick inning. Braves go 1-2-3, but still lead 4-1. Only 2 hits tonight as the Braves look to complete a sweep. They've got a 4-1 lead going to the bottom of the 8th inning. Luis Ayala still on the mound for Atlanta. Alex Wood hoping to pick up his second major league win here tonight if the Braves bullpen can get the job done. Scott Downs up again, loose and ready, and will probably be called upon at some point this inning. Maybe even as soon as after this batter. And a strike to the man they call Chooch here in Philadelphia. Ruiz has doubled and walked.
And there was some discussion, rumors we heard that possibly with the injury to Yadier Molina that Carlos Ruiz might be traded to the Cardinals and as more of a rental player for the remainder of the season or until Yadier comes back. That didn't transpire. And possibly the Phillies re-signed him after the season was over anyway.
Lays off the slider away, ball one. We saw Cody Ashe, a rookie third baseman, is in the on deck circle right now to bat on the pitcher spot for the Phils. He's just been up in the big leagues for about a week. Scott Downs under the watchful eye of the bullpen coach Eddie Perez, former Atlanta catcher.
Thing about Mr. Perez down there in the Atlanta bullpen, he knows what a quality big league pitch looks like. You might lose the hands, you might lose the bat speed, but as far as understanding when a guy can get somebody out after catching Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz and all those guys, he can tell guys about grips they use, sequences they used, anything that you want to know about pitching. That older catcher knows.
And his left arm's probably in as good a shape as it was when he was 10 years old because he didn't have to move it much with those three.
Popped up. Backpedaling Freeman to make the play, one down. Ashe announced into the game as a pinch hitter, and that's going to mean that Fredi Gonzalez will make the move and bring in the lefty Scott Downs. So we will step aside with a pitching change here in Philadelphia. The Braves up in the bottom of the eighth. Braves up 4-1 on the Phillies, and veteran left-hander Scott Downs is in the game for Atlanta. The former Cub, Expo, Blue Jay, and most recently Angel, just acquired from Atlanta prior to the deadline. At one point, really in the prime of his career, would pitch an entire inning, even multiple innings, face lefties, righties, but he's evolved into more of a situational guy at this point of his career, but still a really nice pickup for Atlanta.
Well, you mentioned the guys who went down and they had to replenish that bullpen, especially with add another lefty. They had Avilan out there, the only guy, the only lefty in their bullpen, so they had to bolster that because when you look around this division, you have Harper, LaRoche, lefties you're going to have to get out. Utley, Howard, Dominic Brown, when they're healthy, guys you need to get out. You're basically the guys you're going to be called upon to get out late in the game. And that's why they had to add a guy like Scott Down.
And you might have a third lefty in that bullpen come playoff time if Alex Wood, the starter tonight, isn't part of the rotation, and he gets lefties out and has not even given up an extra base hit to a lefty this year.
Eric Kratz pinch hitting for the pinch hitter, Cody Ashe. So Ashe never gets a chance to actually swing the bat. Kratz swings to the first pitch. It's a big 2-hopper to short. 2 down. Sports Center comes your way at the conclusion of the ball game tonight here on ESPN. A little more controversy surrounding Johnny Manziel. What does the immediate future hold for Alex Rodriguez in a one-on-one with Tiger Woods? All that coming after the game tonight.
But he eke out the win today, Tiger, or something, by 7 or 8 shots? I don't know.
Might have increased the lead.
Here's Michael Young.
79th tour win today. Was it Sam Snead that has 82? Wow. Congratulations, Tiger.
Worrell wasn't just watching baseball today, was he? Dialed into golf.
Yep.
Got this previous thing on the channel. Changer. Previous. Last.
Right-hander Anthony Vivaro is up in the Atlanta pen in case he's needed here in the 8th inning. And Jonathan Papelbon, who hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities recently. The Phillies have lost 12 out of 13. Although he did blow one save. They had a crusher on Thursday. We're up 1-0. He gave up 2 in the 9th. In his first appearance at home since he said a few days earlier, I didn't sign up for this. This being the Phillies struggling as much as they have. And he was booed loudly here on Thursday. As Young shoots a base hit through the right side. Papelbon has never been shy with his opinions. And the line that sticks, I definitely didn't come here for this. And shocking as this may seem, the fans here in Philadelphia got on his case the next opportunity they had.
Yeah, I was talking to him today about it, and he, I told him, I said, it's sometimes when you tell the truth, you get in trouble. And that's what he felt at that time. That was his opinion. He expressed it. And he said, look, he said, in this, what I said, he said, I'm throwing me in that equation too. He said, I didn't come here to not pitch up to his capabilities. And so he said, people can take it for what it is, but, I told the truth. I told what was in my heart, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. But he said, I'm not discluding me in this whole equation. He said, I'm part of the problem too.
And you saw he's blown 6 of his last 15 save opportunities.
And I'll tell you this, if I was his teammate, and I talked to some guys after I talked to Jonathan, and no one had a problem with it because they said, he's right. None of us signed up for this. Yep. The guys who have been here forever, Utley and Rollins, they didn't sign up to play this poorly.
$13 million a season for Papelbon for 2 years after this one. And You got to believe if they had the chance to deal him and not eat too much of the money the Phillies would, but is anybody interested?
A lot of the scouts are saying the stuff is down and the effectiveness is down, and so nobody's going to take that risk right now.
Yeah, and everyone kept saying Detroit, Detroit, Detroit. You know, they need a closer, and then Ben Watt steps in, and he's been absolutely phenomenal. Velocity up to 96, 97, and so now that's, you know, that was out at the trade deadline, and you know, to me it seems like Oro, like most, unless your closer gets hurt by the All-Star break, if you're really good, your closer's established himself as being a pretty good closer. And you know, not many teams go into the later parts of the season, September, without having to determine who their closer is. And I think the Dodgers made a great pickup by getting Brian Wilson.
Down, strikes out Utley, and that's all for the Phillies here in the bottom of the 8th. To the 9th, Papelbon on his way into the Phillies down 4-1. Papelbon in to get a little work. Hasn't had many opportunities lately. The Phillies trailing the Braves here 4-1. As we mentioned last half inning, Papelbon's not the most popular guy in town right now after the comments that he made last week. And he heard it from the fans again as he came into the ball game here tonight. Meanwhile, with this team struggling as much as it has, and they're trailing again here in the 9th inning, they are flooding for the exits. This is a different vibe, a different situation here than we've come to expect from this Phillies team over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, tell me, it doesn't go unnoticed by the ownership group either. They know that, you know, lately their attendance has been down, and I think the general feeling is without them coming out and saying is they need to do something this offseason to get, you know, the fans who aren't coming back that are normally here coming, you know, rejuvenated to come back to the ballpark. And I don't know what they can do. I really don't. I don't, you know, I'm sure they'll come up with something creative. They set the standard. They set the bar here really high since 2007 when they caught the Mets to get in the postseason in 2007 to win the East. And then, of course, 2008, they win the World Series. 2009, they lose it. And so the fans are used to a winning atmosphere here. And, I mean, you see it. This is Philadelphia. If you're not performing and, you know, so you're having poor at-bats when you're down and, you know, one-pitch ground-outs, and they're going to let you know it by either A, booing, or 2, not showing up.
Joey Turdoslavich is the pinch hitter, called up on the 4th of July, batting in the pitcher spot. And he fouls it back 2-2. You know, the ERA and the strikeouts to walks, those are all the whip. I mean, they're all good numbers, but the 6 blown saves in the last 6 weeks or so kind of jumps out.
Yeah, the 13 saves in a row to start the season. Then the next 13 opportunities, 6 blown, was put you on the bad side of anybody's mood, including your own.
Well, and what fans are left here, a leadoff walk's not going to help his affection for the fans' affection help any.
Charging Rollins, 1 down. Meanwhile, the other closer, Craig Kimbrell, is up in the pen. Save Friday's game, save yesterday's game, and ready to bring some of the best stuff into baseball into the game here in the bottom of the 9th.
And a variety of stuff now. Yep. Using his breaking ball more and his changeup, not just coming at you with the high heat. He's really becoming a pitcher in that 9th inning.
I don't know, that 97 riding fastball is a pretty good one. Pretty good piece of the arsenal.
Sets up the breaking ball pretty good.
You think?
Here's Hayward.
I was talking to Evan Gaddis today about Kimbrell, who caught him yesterday in the save in yesterday's game, and he he said it's different. It's a different 97 than anyone else throws. He said it just gets on you so much quicker with that hop. But he said it's an easy 97. I said I've never heard of anyone throw an easy 97.
Easy gas.
Outside corner, strike 3 call.
Jonathan Papelbon shakes twice to get to this pitch. He saw something in Hayward's approach. He said, I need to dot one away and let K-Zone call it a ball, but the umpire called a strike.
I know the game's only 4-1, but doesn't it seem like a blowout?
Feels like it.
I mean, that's the faith that the Phillies fans have in their offense. Most of the people are leaving. It's 3 runs.
A strike to Justin Upton. The Phillies with just 3 hits in this game. Well, a few years back when Howard, Rollins, Utley were all in their prime, they were as good an offensive team as there was in baseball.
When the Phillies score 3 or more, they're 37-16.
That'll put you in the race.
They're just not scoring too many 3 or mores.
A little flare into right field, a base hit for Justin Upton.
They're just looking for a reason to boo Jonathan.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, that's a flare with 2 out, nobody on. Almost broke his bat and boos.
First baseman Freddie Freeman.
See that look right there? From 1989 to 1990, the end of the 92 season, every fan had that one.
And you could hear him too, huh?
Oh.
Yep.
Well, you know, in the vet, because it was enclosed, it echoed. There's only like 50 people there by the end of the game. And usually we were down, 15-9.
The same fans who got on your case in 92 loved you in 93.
They were. I'll say this: they loved our offense because we did score.
Yeah.
We just had no chance of keeping people from scoring.
They Had a pretty good run lately. 10 straight years.
Wow.
500 or better, but they're 10 games under right now. That'll make you conceal your identity when you come to the ballpark.
Those guys have been sitting there a while.
Well hit down the left field line, but a foul. Two and two. A little movement on that pitch back over the inside corner.
Yeah, nice little comebacker right there. This ball doesn't sink, but he's got a really nice tail to it. Just makes the left-hand hitter flinch. And remember, he punched out Hayward with a fastball away. You're watching that in the on-deck circle.
Tried again, but he missed. Full count on Freeman.
Cliff Lee pitched him inside. Looking like they're trying to get in on Freddie as much as they can, not let him extend his arms.
Justin Upton will be on the move from first. Inning over. Couple of strikeouts in the ninth for Papelbon. Here comes Craig Kimbrell with Atlanta 3 outs away from a 10-game winning streak. The Phillies coming out trailing by 3. We've talked a lot about the biogenesis situation earlier tonight. It's been a big story in baseball in recent days. Earlier, Buster only got the reaction of some of the players on these two teams about performance-enhancing drugs and their impact on Major League Baseball.
I think the players as a whole, I think we're just sick of it. The guys that are doing it the right way, we're sick of players trying to cheat the system. I mean, it's 2013 and in 2004 that this all came into play. So if you're trying to cheat now, it's bad business.
Every player in the league, wants this game to be cleaned up, and if you're going to be, going that route, then I think you make that decision on your own. I think you should, you're going to have to be on your own to fight it also.
I think all the players as a whole want a tougher penalty. 50 games. For some people, it's worth trying to cheat the system. And I think, as players that do it the right way.
And when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, if you're going to make $50 million and you only get suspended 50 games, you're only going to lose $3 million, $4 million, and you're still going to bank on that $47 million.
I think if you want to get rid of everything completely, one-time shot, you get caught, it's got to be, banned for good.
According to reports, suspensions may be handed out as early as tomorrow. Coverage all day on SportsCenter and continued coverage during the Dodger-Cardinal game tomorrow night and on Baseball Tonight following the game. Craig Kimbrell is on the mound for Atlanta, one of the very best in the game. Guy who's pitching unbelievably well. 66 strikeouts and 42 in the third. Saved Friday, saved Saturday.
He's got it all. Velocity, movement, breaking ball, poise, location.
Paul Janisch in the game at third base now for the Braves. Kimbrell leads the National League in saves with 33. His last blown save was almost 3 months ago. He's converted 23 in a row and has allowed 1 run in his last 29 innings.
I forgot to ask him why he does that from his stretch.
It's part of the closer armor. They always have something quirky about them, don't they? Not just one thing, huh?
Most of the ones I know are
pretty quirky all the way around.
They're different.
Mariano's not different.
No, that's what I mean.
He breaks the mold.
Yeah, he's so nice.
And a leaping catch at second by Ugla for out number 1. Kimbrell trying to save it for Alex Wood, looking to pick up his second major league win, and Wood is tonight's Chevrolet Player of the Game. The young, funky left-hander with 6 strong innings gave up 1 run on 2 hits tonight.
First big league win was against Colorado, 7 quality innings, and tonight another nice solid outing.
1 out, Darren Ruff the batter. Look at that slider for a strike. You dialed up for 97, you get a nasty looking 86.
Yeah, down 3, first pitch of the at bat. Really?
Just trying to get you out, John. We're not trying to trick you. Back to back.
Yeah, in your desire not to trick, you trick.
Well, he's up by 3. He might want to work on his breaking ball tonight.
He's got that one perfected the first 2. Let's try the fastball now.
Here comes up the ladder.
97 up. Not up enough.
What are you looking for now?
Hoping he throws a ball.
So really, in a hitter's mind right now?
Right now, I'm looking 97 and hoping if he throws another slider, it's a ball. He bounces it or he hangs it.
Wow.
That's what I mean. It just jumps on you. It just has that life.
What does that look like? Do you really see the ball?
Yeah, you see it, but it's like it has another gear. Once it gets halfway there, it just starts taking off. Oh.
On the slider and a base hit for Ruff.
Apparently he was sitting on it. Hey, if that doesn't do confidence for a young man and Darren Ruff, then nothing will. Because you're talking 97 up, and then a slider, and he stays on it and squares one up into left field. There were certain pitchers, Nolan Ryan, Dwight Gooden in his prime, that I eliminated the curveball, and if they threw 3 for strikes, I was out. Right. And I knew that. And
do you really think Darren Ruff standing down there at first base knows how he hit that slider?
No.
Just reacted to it.
He was, that's the only way.
Because I've stood up there, and I wasn't that good a hitter. But there are certain pitchers, like John's saying. I'd say for me, there's a lot more than for John. But you had no idea if they're going to throw more than one pitch above 95 miles an hour. You forget it. The other ones, no way.
Hope they throw it where you're swinging. Yeah. Or even that wasn't enough.
Not for me.
We just hope they throw it for balls.
As a pitcher, you go up there. If you throw a complete game, you might get 3 to 4 at bats. 2 of the 4 at bats, you're probably called on to bunt. So you're asked to go up and hit 95 miles an hour with a slider and a possible changeup or a curveball. Really, like 1 at bat every 5 days. It's hard. It's an experiential sport. You need to see it to get used to it. Oh, he's got no chance.
And Delman Young getting booed as he strikes out for the 4th time tonight.
You ever feel like handing your bat to the fans right about now as you're walking back after that slider?
I struck out 4 times in a playoff game to John Smoltz, and I was asked after the game how bad I felt. I said, we won 2-1. Why do I care? I try to get some tomorrow. But, yeah, that's what I mean. There's some, and not so much you, Deb, but I think everybody who covers sports who didn't play, covers baseball, didn't play, just ought to stand and put a helmet on and stand in on a side session.
See what it is.
Where you're not going to get hit and they're not throwing 100%, and just see how quick the ball gets on you. And, of course, we were trained to do that. We did it our whole lives, and the speed got built up as the further on we went. But it's scary.
Phillies an out away from suffering their 13th defeat in their last 14 games. It's swung on and missed. Now to second. On defensive indifference is rough. Braves looking for a 10-game winning streak.
And one of the interesting tidbits today, just quickly at the end here, Freddie Gonzalez in his notebook that he keeps on all the teams and games. And that'll go in the notebook right there about, do they run when they play behind them late in the game up by 3.
It's a 6-year-old notebook.
Yep.
He's got a notebook for every division in baseball.
And for every manager. Yeah. And it's not to hold any grudges. It's just to remember from series to series, year to year, who makes what moves and when. You see pitchers do it on opponent hitters. You see hitters do it on pitchers. I've rarely seen the notebook on a manager's desk that is about the game and other managers.
Franzen lifts one in the air to right field. And the Atlanta Braves run their winning streak to 10. And hand the Phillies their 13th loss in their last 14 games. Good times for those fans and the visiting Atlanta Braves, who have by far the largest lead into baseball now, a whopping 12.5 up on the Nationals atop the National League East, and the Phillies continue to sink lower and lower. The final score from Citizens Bank Park here in Philadelphia: Atlanta 4 and the Phillies 1. Second big league win for Alex Wood. Major League Baseball continues tomorrow night at 7 Eastern here on ESPN as the Dodgers take on the Cardinals. Coming up next tonight is Sports Center. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney, and our entire crew, I'm Dan Shulman saying thanks for watching and so long from Philly.